All right, sweet. Um, there's a link. I have some stuff I want to go over, but if anyone wants to come in and keep me company, I'm all for it. Um, Mute. Oh, you can hear me? Okay, sweet. All right. Well, welcome everyone. So I had uh, I had a thought. I've been looking at all the big players involved, and I've been trying to look for a good. Let's see if I can. I mean, I didn't find the picture I was gonna look. I was looking for, but in general, I guess we go something like this, right? Um, it seems to be a lot of coverage, but anyone who's ever had a cell phone, which is probably everyone, knows it's not really the case, right? That's all old picture too, but um, the way towers work, they can't really get high enough, and you know, so if you so what would be the next, for if you think about, we'll go to man, I'll have to jump around a bit. So I'll just pull it up. Larry Chang tweeted today. Um, all right. So this got me really thinking. I'd already been thinking about this, and it was like, I don't know, the just one more thing that kind of pushed me over into thinking this direction, right? And so Larry Chang said reflections coming out of the at US Mobile. I'd never heard of that before. Board meeting today. Is there any other mass market like mobile services where customers broadly and consistently pay more money than they need to for lesser service? Fascinating to think about what creates that culture in customers. This isn't a rhetorical question. Please tell me so I can invest in a company in that market to improve service and lower prices. It's my favorite combination: lower prices, better service, existing market. Right. So that's something also that Mark Cuban talked about in his cost plus pharmacy. This idea of getting rid of the middlemen. And it's something that I've been thinking a lot about is, oh, um, yeah. So, because he says like, well, there's just like that. I don't think an economy um, can stay, um, like sustain having so many middlemen that just kind of take so much, right? That's in pharmaceuticals, that's in phone service, that's in everything. And um, I'm just seeing this trend, and there's all these people that see this problem as well, and it seems like they might all be, I don't want to say colluding, but working together, or at least have the same goal, so they're going to end up in the same place. They also might be aware of each other. I have no idea. But so you have US Mobile. So I looked at that. All right. Well, one, I mean, just the fact that it's like an American flag, US, I just realized has some implications. I don't want to say make America great again, but that I don't know if it's going that direction, but might be somewhat coincidental. It's a rocket, right? Okay, so why does a 5G company have a rocket, right? And is there really room in the market for another phone company? Well, so if we look at, I probably should definitely. Well, I guess I can just go this one first, and I'll get it out of the way. X gets audio, video calls on Android, iOS, PC, and Mac. So no phone number needed. So, I mean that could replace the whole archaic idea of a phone number, which is kind of odd to be honest. And you have to buy your phone number from someone else. Um, so all right, so we see he's going for to replace phone numbers, right? You got AT&T, Verizon, all these people. They're big companies. I don't want to say have a stranglehold on, but um, the best companies, the best business model. Um, all right, I'm gonna pull Famous in. He has some thoughts maybe for later, but he's just gonna hang out. Hey, Famous, thanks for coming.
What's up, dude? I honestly just
Yeah,
wanted to come hang with you. I've been pretty much out of pocket all day today. It's been quite glorious, honestly.
it it is pretty nice, and I wouldn't really either. I'm just kind of excited to try to guess what's gonna happen before it happens, more than actually. I mean, I'm super zen and excited, but um, I
Oh, I
just
totally get that too. It was just the
yeah.
day for me, you know what I mean? I needed it today, so it's like, I don't fault anybody that's still digging in or anything like that, but I needed a change of scenery, so I took my dog out, went for a run, and then I rode my EUC around town. It was really nice. So happy to
You
be here,
rode
man.
what?
My EUC, it's an electric unicycle.
Oh,
Have you ever seen those before, man?
I think so. I think might know which one you're talking about. I actually had a one wheel for a little bit, and um,
Okay, so it's like that, but it's like the wheel's going like it's between your legs, and your
yeah,
feet are like going the same way as the wheel. Whereas like the
nice.
one wheel is kind of like skateboard style. Um, but I've got like a pretty beefy one, so I'm zipping around at like 45 miles an hour out there. It's a lot of fun.
That's kind of sketch, but I actually
Super
can ride a
sketch.
regular unicycle.
Oh yeah? Well, then you'd be able to hop right on, dude.
Yeah.
You should try out an EUC sometime, man. They're lots of fun. I mean, I've got like I don't know, probably close to 4,000 miles total on these
Oh, nice.
things. So like it's sketchy, but I also wear tons of gear, like full face helmet and like level
Oh yeah, if I
tube.
was going 45 on the
Like
street, I would 100% be wearing a full face helmet.
yeah, dude, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So you gotta make sure you're ready for everything.
I actually did a little bit of street racing. They have like a motocross. You put street tires on a dirt bike, and then you lower it, and then you race it on half dirt, half street. I actually did
Dude,
that.
that
It's called
sounds like
Super
so
Moto.
much fun.
Yeah, it's really sketch though.
That's
I
half
kind
the
of got
fun.
into it, and I started like doing pretty good, and then I don't know. I just had a couple crashes, and I'm like, yeah, it just really hurts on the pavement. I'm going back to dirt. So
Dude, yeah, it's like when you're younger, it's like bang, but when you're like our age, it's more of a crunch.
yeah,
Like you just don't spring back concrete. Like I swear to God, gravity increases and the hardness of concrete also increases and your brittleness increases as well. So yeah, it hurts pretty
yeah,
bad when you fall. But my most painful falls have been at like fairly low speed. I've
yeah.
never crashed at high speed, but yeah, you got to be safe and falling sucks. It
Yeah.
really does.
Sweet. Well, so I was just what I was starting to say was I was excited. The idea of I think that basically the business model that helps a business, decrease the amount of uncertainty of what they're going to be doing is when it's like subscription service, and the most lucrative one, well, not most lucrative, but is phone companies. I actually learned Spanish down in Mexico, and while I was there, this is back in the day, and one of the
Back
richest
in the
men in the
day.
world was, the guy who owned the cell phone company in Mexico, and it was like so expensive per minute just to use the phone, and so I'm kind of thinking that basically there's so you have Elon Musk. Now he's going to use audio and video calls on through X, um, and he's been talking about his phone that he's going to come out with, and I kind of thought like, was there really a room in the market for just like another phone? Like, if it had extra security, would it really make it worth it or whatnot? And I kind of wasn't really that sure. But then when I was looking up the Falcon rocket that just went up, it launched. This group 6 through. Keep getting different numbers. 6 through 21 or 6 through 18. Um, um, oh, is that the anyway? That now with this coverage, this next string or whatever of the Starlink satellites, they're going to be able to cover actually the whole world.
Oh, wow. So they'd actually start being able to roll out kind of any feature suite that would require that.
Exactly. So, like, say they came out with a cell phone that maybe the first generation might have to be both, you know, satellite and 5G or something, or I don't know, maybe it's just might just go straight just satellite. Um, I think that we kind of dismiss, the Western kind of mentality is we kind of dismiss like all the rest of the world. But even like, I was actually looking at the Bahamas. I was trying to find what connection there was, and someone was like, "Oh, like I'm using Starlink out in the Bahamas, and it kind of works." And they're like, "Every week it gets better." And I mean, he was able to change Starlink to move through, um, Ukraine or whatever. Like, so but now that he's going to have enough, he might not need to adjust them, and he could just have phones that would work literally anywhere in the world. You wouldn't need a different phone service when you go to a different country. It would just go straight to him. There would be no middlemen. It would just be you and Starlink.
Yeah, so if you've got a way to communicate with those Starlink satellites, I mean, you could bundle a lot of um, things into one, right? So instead of having like Wi-Fi and data, if you're just like blanketing the world with essentially Wi-Fi,
Yeah,
then that opens up a lot of opportunities. And I saw you earlier with the U.S. mobile stuff, and in
yeah,
regards to what you were saying earlier, also about just the money that's to be made in there. Once you get the infrastructure set up, it's essentially pure profit, right? Like you have maintenance and that sort of thing, but as you can scale with users, and assuming that you've got the infrastructure in place early enough and it can handle, the demand, um, then you're groovy after that. I mean, of course, it helps a lot that you own the rocket ships that are taking it up and everything else. So, when I was looking into the Sixth Street stuff and the Keiretsu stuff, there's a lot of communications companies in there, and some of those were specific to like space technology in regards to satellites, as well as um, just general communication. But there was definitely like a cellular aspect to it that I saw, and then I remembered what Larry Chang had talked about before, and it seems like the U.S. mobile prices are really, really great. So if you could couple that with some Starlink loving, that'd be amazing.
yeah. And I was looking at so I started so when Blockbuster um, was like they tweeted, someone was like, "Oh, I thought you were dead," and then I think they were like, "Oh, did Ryan Cohen say something?" And it was like, "Wait, what?" like, and so I started looking at, I'm like thinking, okay, Blockbuster, and then some people have been saying that pretty much anyone that has trademarked an NFT is probably part of this Keiretsu type thing. And so then I was like, oh, but Dish Network is the person who owns it, and that's like a company. I remember kind of when they started getting phased out. I mean, it and Wally and I were talking. Wally Buck and I were talking about it, but he didn't. But he was shocked when we looked at the financials, and it's like, wow, actually they still make money. But it makes sense because like even for a lot of us, it was phased out because you couldn't do online gaming because the latency wasn't there. But it kind of shows how many people live in a place where they just don't have access to high speed internet. I mean,
100%, dude. I mean, my mom
yeah,
and her husband literally just got Starlink, and it's been a godsend for them.
yeah.
It's twice as much as they were paying, but it's like 100 times faster.
And so I was thinking that somehow, I don't know if Elon would want to buy Dish Network just to have all the things that go along with it.
Well, if you
Me
integrate it
buying.
so you don't have to buy them, right? You can just
I,
partner with them.
I guess
And
that's also true.
do you remember do you remember the story of the Blockbuster DAO? Did you ever hear that?
No, I didn't actually. Let's hear it.
So, um, back in the day, uh, many moons ago, I believe it was mid to early 2021. I can't remember if it was before or after the GameStop sneeze, but I tried finding it. I tried finding this article a few times, um, and I think I found it after searching for a long time, one time. But anyways, I don't know if I could find it right now. But um, there was a Blockbuster DAO that was trying to go to Dish Network to buy the rights to Blockbuster because
Mm.
it's fucking Blockbuster, right? And they had been in talks with Dish for about 3 months, if I recall correctly. And then at the quote 11th hour, an individual investor stepped in. And from that point on, Dish Network was no longer interested in speaking with the Blockbuster DAO. And they shut off all communications and they shut down the deal. And we haven't heard anything since in regards to Dish's plans. But if you've got Dish Network that's got TV and TV infrastructure as well as their own satellite, and you've also got Starlink that's a partner, and all of these things, like you could quite easily like build something together. I mean, if you look at Blockbuster's page, there's lots of families that are wearing Blockbuster mobile shirts.
Yeah.
So if you're partnered with Dish Network and therefore Blockbuster, or you bought the rights for Blockbuster from Dish, and then you additionally partner with them, right, to where it's a good deal for everybody. And then you own US Mobile and you own these Starlink satellites and you control a hardware component of it. Like, whew, whoa, Nelly.
No, it's true. I was thinking the only reason I was thinking that he would buy it would be to, I guess, kind of a reverse merger, then do like kind of another IPO for it or something, so that he could, because at some point you have to kind of monetize and actually like make money. Like he's invested a lot into it, and I think doing an IPO is the best way to make that happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just kind of
Well,
a thought.
Blockbuster still has stock out there. Um, so, my assumption would be that they're essentially under the Dish umbrella, but they've got that separate ticker that just kind of hangs in the graveyard. So if you wanted to spin that off, like let's say they've already done a similar structure as we've seen with the
Mm.
butterfly, which is like, was it 10 different investors are all in this thing?
Yeah.
So if you've done that like kind of at scale, I don't see why you couldn't also do that with Blockbuster. I mean, that could also partially explain, some of these days where you're seeing that 10,000% increase or whatever, where it was like somewhat unexplained. Like, what if somebody was, hoovering up those shares? Because, like, if you've got a company like Blockbuster or even just a public company, from what I understand, like this Butterfly Corporation, right? The BFLY. Like, if let's say that everybody's involved with this and they've taken the same approach as far as number of entities that are investing a small percentage, we'll say it's 10% or whatever or less, through warrants and other means, you could stay under the reporting requirements, but you could have a group of investors that essentially owns the majority of the company, and through that majority you could take the company private if you so wished and go through any complex series of mergers or anything like that. And through these like kind of dummy mergers, it doesn't seem like too, we just don't know how they have it set up, but you could take Blockbuster and you could, merge it with another entity. You could use a shell of another company if you wanted to take it public, or you could IPO it on the blockchain. The
Yeah.
possibilities are endless.
Yeah. No, for sure. Um, I'm. I mean, one this morning, all the different AST stuff, leading to maybe I'll bring that up actually. Let's see. There's here that going towards the blockchain. It looks like the stage is set for it. So one, there was um, um, oh yeah, so in BNY Mellon, actually specializes in cryptocurrency. They're the first ones to. Yeah, I should have organized all my tabs. Oh, might have shut it down. Oh well. So BNY Mellon, who owns like $1 billion of the null, both worth of the bonds, and they were one of the first ones to be able to back in. Man, I should have looked it up. Let's see, BNY.
You talking about the well, did you know that in 2012 ComputerShare bought this BNY Mellon like subsidiary?
Yeah, so the fact that they're like the transfer agent, but also it says BNY Mellon is the first U.S. bank to safeguard digital assets alongside traditional investments, right? So
Oh,
then to
nice.
be have a transfer agent and everything, it's like. But what really stood out was this is October, and BSTX got permission, got regulatory approval in November. So the next month. So this was like key to it, and so then you have this, which we were kind of wondering about. Everything that's been going on, like the supposed cash offer and all this, but it seems to actually. So this is actually the BSTX. What they got approved is this book. It's this rule book, super long, but it says a reverse. And there's like rules about like having to be above a certain price. I think it's like $4 for a while, and all these different things. But there's an exception on Rule 26-101E. It says a reverse merger company will not be subject to the requirements of this rule if it is listing in connection with a firm commitment underwritten public offering, right? So I don't think that Charles Schwab could be like telling people, especially in writing, that there's like an offer for $25 a share. And it's like there's only so many people that can even pay that because that'd be quite a bit. Um, but that might have just filled that requirement as far as like, well, that isn't the actual offer. You're going to be getting equity, but it's like a commitment, like a firm commitment to something like that or similar to just to fulfill this rule. Um, where the proceeds to the merger company will be at least $40 million. And the offering is occurring subsequent or concurrently with the reverse merger, right?
So
So it
the
sounds exactly like our situation.
yeah, it does, man. So in this case, it would be satisfied as long as like the emerging company does a public offering in conjunction
So
with the
they just have
merger.
to the company kind of buying them, like reverse merging into them, has to have an underwritten public offering. And so I don't know, like Carl Icahn had to get his loans arranged and all that. Um, in the Bed Bath filings, there was lots of stuff about, you know, oh man, I'm forgetting the words. It wasn't liquidity, but just solvency and evaluations, and so you'd have to have everything evaluated and have the money, and um, so I don't know,
Yeah, that's interesting
but
though.
it seems like a lot of. Oh, also you had Sixth Street, right? That they're right, they're the dip lenders right now, and um, they had an $8 billion fund, right? So that could be involved as part of this. Um,
Well, and there's
yeah.
nothing that stops you from like. So let's say you really did just want to absolutely obliterate the shorts, right? It seems like you could buy out the shares and then release the Teddy shares if you know that you're only having to buy the float once, and these guys are gonna have to buy the float 10 times, and you
Yeah.
get the Teddy shares on the blockchain. And then you can also do a public offering into that. You can sell, you know, an extra. You could double the float. You could do a forward split. You could do lots of things, but there's an opportunity to raise capital as well. I mean, it's gonna it's gonna be epic.
And I don't know if you were one of the ones that's done a lot of the TSO and like who's holding the shares and the float research? Are you? I mean, I haven't like cared enough to go through
Yeah, I
the
haven't really either, man. I did a lot of digging, like back on the day, in
yeah
regards to the HPC deal and like the warrant conversions and stuff like that. And I came up with mostly like a theory that, like I didn't do the exact math on it because I knew it was possible. And then Theorico has done a lot of really great work in regards to like the shares that are held in abeyance and that sort of thing.
yeah
So in regards to that, like I trust him, and I don't get too caught up on like the nitty gritty of every like trying to account for every single share.
because
Um,
because I was thinking if they're well basically I guess the same similar to you. I didn't go through the nitty gritty, but I was just thinking that if Ryan Cohn owns more than half or him, like because it seems like that there was like possibly like 311 that were from to the HBC has, and then another 311 that someone else has, and so that would mean that the regular float's only like 100 and something million. So if the people holding all those shares, way more than half, they could pretty much kind of name their price as long as they could buy the float with that price, then the shorts would have to pay the rest.
yeah, and we just don't know the details of that HBC deal. Like when I originally wrote about it, I theorized that it could be an excellent mechanism for many parties to kind of jump in this thing together. Like, because if this is going to be Teddy, the holding company, and these companies wanted to end their Keiretsu, this HBC deal could have been a method to do that. So, if you've got multiple entities in the 5 to 10% range that are getting Class A shares and then converting them to warrants, they can hold those warrants as late as they want and not convert to common shares. And as long as they're just holding the warrants, they don't have to report anything. So, in theory, if you wanted to go ahead and invest in this Keiretsu, albeit somewhat risky because you're still having to go through the bankruptcy process, but you trust in the people that are running it. You could have, again, multiple entities that just dove in on this thing and then converted where they needed to convert after bankruptcy. And then you strategically have, somebody like RC not convert, you
Mm.
know, all of them and hold, 180 of them to maintain that creditor status and that lever of control. And that could be the tipping point and trigger that change of control.
And so in that change of control, as far as the nulls go, I was also wondering, wouldn't that mean that we couldn't get a cash buyout because in order to preserve the nulls, the shareholders have to stay the same, right?
So you have to preserve equity, right? But I'd have to look into, whether or not like if you were to do a cash buyout in order just to throw down the cheddar, knowing
Mm-hmm.
that you're gonna sell into this thing and you just want to go ahead and hit the nuke button,
Mm-hmm.
and then you could still offer blockchain shares in addition to that
Oh, that's
that have a,
true.
that have a $0 value, right? So you're buying everybody out for $25 a share, and then they issue blockchain shares that start at $0,
Right. And
and you
we'll
also
all
get
hold on
those.
to those because we're all degenerates. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly, dude. And also, they're not going to be. I don't think that they're going to be like they're not. They're going to be able to issue more shares. So, on the blockchain, especially if this thing is oversold, like you'll get these $0 Teddy shares on the blockchain, but they're immediately going to rocket because everybody's going to want them. And also, like, and that's just like every individual investor, like people in this play and others. I mean, I'm going to try and buy more, probably if I've got the cash and the ability. But there's certain entities out there that want them way worse than we do. And I have a feeling there's going to be a scramble to get them. They're not going to stay $0 for long at all.
yeah. It'd be fun to see how oversold it is, like how, what the short interest really is. I was watching someone's, it was the gist. He had an interview with someone from Bloomberg, and the guy was just like, no, like naked shorting is just a dumb myth, and whatever. And he's like, you know, people keep saying the short interest, but he's like, that doesn't even count for the short interest. And then he's like, they have no evidence of it. And it's like, so you're just saying it doesn't affect the short interest. So, Um, so like, how do we know? And then also like, you don't have any evidence to prove that they're doing it, and it's like, so it's going to be really cool when the evidence is there because it goes to the blockchain and they have to own it that there's
Yeah,
way too many failures to deliver.
it'll be undeniable at that point. And these guys, they've been so used to talking out both sides of their mouth for so long, and it's worked for so long. I don't expect them really to ever change.
Yeah. Well, when their companies they work for get liquidated.
Well, then they're just going to switch the narrative to how these evil market manipulators are destroying jobs and how they should be ashamed and everything else. So I think like the mega FUD is coming, which is also why I feel like as soon as this money starts hitting our accounts, we need to be doing very public, very good things with it.
I think it's gonna like it also has to be big too. So it's just that there will instantly be better jobs like available. I mean, I don't know. I think that people get greedy, and these structures of society they don't change. They're just like they just take their paycheck, they like squeeze as much value out of it as they can, and then move on. And I think that because like the investment, like it's just like you think about like the landlines, right? Like there was like a phone for like a landline. That technology is just at one point it's just kind of over, and there's still like some companies still trying to hold on to it. No, like we want to charge this much money, and I've been in phone like different cellular service phone like stores, and just like seeing them talking to old people and like setting them up, and even my grandparents, right, like with like a landline and charging them $60 a month for this landline, and it's like, you guys are so messed up. Like they have cell phones. Why are you telling them they need this? And so I think that they're all going to get rug pulled when Elon's like, all right, well, the only cell service now is Starlink, and there's service everywhere, and it's really fast, and you know. So I think that there's a lot of people ready to kind of rug pull the whole system because of how messed up it is, right? Like you have the pharmaceutical system, right? And here's Mark Cuban ready to rug pull that whole system. Um, let's see, someone came in here to.
Trololo. Um, yeah, man. I think part of the only the young stuff. It's like if you're still in this thing, it's like because you can think for yourself, right? And I think that a lot of, especially the older generation, like my mom's kind of a kindred spirit. She's somewhat spiritual, and she's a real one. She's got good intuition. My dad is kind of nuts and bolts, and I'm a little bit of both of them. But my dad saw you know the news, and he's like, I'm not touching that with a 10 foot pole. And I'm like, okay, that's reasonable. But my mom, she bought in at like $8, and she doesn't have a ton of shares, but I'll hook her up after this.
Yeah.
um, but I think the problem is they don't understand that the system is rigged against them. They can't see
Yeah.
that. They can't like contemplate that. It's the same area of the brain that like that deals with like their favorite sports team and religion, right? Like you're not going to convince them, and that's okay. They have to see it for themselves.
Well, I think when you kind of open up your eyes, it's kind of scary. When you realize like you have to fight, like you don't have any, like you realize how powerless you are when you open up your eyes, and so people just don't. They kind of cling to what this psychologist Lacan says, the big other. And everyone has this authority figure, this big other that they hide under, and so that they don't have to take their own initiative. But
Yeah. Well, it's easier to fool somebody than it is to convince them they've been fooled.
yeah, it's easier to steal than it is to make something yourself. But at some point, you've stolen everything, and then now there's nothing left. There's like, you go in, you went in, and you know you killed all the farmers, and you stole all their food, and then now the next harvest is there, and there's no farmers and there's no food.
Yeah, but you have AI drones with guns that can circle your property, and you know what I mean. Like I I truly feel like this is a watershed moment, or at least it definitely has the potential to be if it's utilized correctly. Because I think that a lot of these, the old guard, as it were, that has been very manipulative and, they went up the ladder and pulled it up after themselves, per se, in a lot of ways. Um, they, especially in the financial system, they just can't believe that it doesn't work anymore. This new type of investor is not going to sit there and like just take it at face value. You know, we're willing to dig in. We're willing to fact check them. And most people aren't willing to do that. And the older generation, sure as fuck, is not going to comb through bankruptcy documents and listen to 150 dick jokes in between DD on the PP show, right? You
Yeah.
gotta. It's a certain type.
I mean, I didn't want to have to go through the whole, like, learn the whole financial world. I mean, I just wanted to, I mean, I had my own dreams, you know. I mean, one, part of me wanted to just be a doctor, but, like, it's kind of forced, and we think that someone has the answer. And I think, what a lot of people found out over the last few days as they've been calling their brokerage and, I mean, the one guy that got on, or maybe it was even Tendi. They were like, yeah, like they're like, oh, you can direct register your shares wherever you want. And like, what? And
Come on.
just like that's their job, and they don't have no idea what they're even talking about.
Yeah,
Like, there's
dude.
only so few people at the top that really know how things work, and they keep it that way. That way no one can challenge them. And we are challenging them because we're figuring it out even without having the resources to be able to easily figure it out. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
man. Yeah, dude. Well, it's like we had that so-called M&A lawyer come in the space on a Sunday the other day. I wasn't there for it, but I heard about it. And I was like, well, what do you guys think about that? And I'm like, well, I mean, he's essentially telling us not to believe our eyes. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen these things. Like, I know the filings. I can tell you that the details of the HPC deal and the warrant conversions, page 57 of the 10Q that was released in June. Like, and until
Yeah.
you can explain that, which none of them can, like, I don't care what you have to say. Like, like it just doesn't matter to me because you're just not going to convince me unless you've got like some real shit, right? But if you're just like shitting my parade and not actually coming with verifiable facts, like if your whole goal is just to confuse, essentially, which a lot of them are, um, I've got no time for that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and they usually just try to get louder and just keep repeating the same thing so it just sounds real just because we get used to hearing it. But um, like the guy that from the gist, I didn't even watch the whole interview yet because it just came out. But um, he was like, "Oh, well, we can all agree that at some point GameStop left its fundamental value. So I guess, oh yes, before that he says, yeah, I know the buy button was definitely, oh, because the gist guy was like, oh, like, is the market corrupt? And he's like, well, I mean, I think more like in people that buy warrants and stuff, that's where like the corruption come in. It's like, okay, he's not wrong. That's also very corrupt. But he's like, um, no, I mean, the rest is like, is fine. And he's like in GameStop, at some point, it wasn't the naked shorts. It was that people were willing to buy and hold and not sell at any price. And, they're just being irrational. And so they kind of deserved it. And it's like, wait, what? Um,
Yeah, the narratives
and
they cook up are insane, dude.
yeah, and that's all they can really say is it's separated from its fundamentals. But it's like, you know, I felt like kind of nervous talking to like these SEC guys. One's like the chief enforcer, and I'm like, okay, like, and then it's like they were kind of morons, and it was like, oh, like they had the same sort of arguments, like, oh, well, it's separated from its fundamental value, and it's like, okay, well, what if someone like 10 years ago or 20 years ago was like, you know what, I think Nvidia, like, I think a computer could think a lot like a person, and the the computer company that probably do it would be like Nvidia, because they do video cards and like, and at that point, if they would have had some astronomical evaluation for Nvidia, like everyone would have thought they were crazy, right? And
Yeah.
then now that it's like, we can see it, it's actually kind of here. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, like now that's just the value, even though they're not really monetizing it yet. So I think similarly, you look at GameStop and it's like, they are going to be the center of gaming and a lot of things, and they're going to be making a lot of money. And same thing with even like Tesla, right? Like and Elon Musk, and that. I mean, if the Starlink thing does happen, I mean, it does not directly connected to Tesla, but the hype investing behind him will make a lot more sense when literally you just watch AT&T and Verizon just kind of going off a cliff, and
Yeah.
Starlink just going up when everyone in the entire world is using one phone service.
Well, you have to ask who stands to benefit from that messaging, right? Elon's been attacked every corner, and if you listen to the mainstream media in general, like they're trying to paint a certain picture, and
Mhm.
they that's their mode, right? That's what they do. That's why X is so important, as a way to kind of like break that narrative. And like you know like I listened to part of Elon sitting down with all the rabbis the other day. I thought that was great. And I don't think that we're gonna get that accurately conveyed by any outlet. In regards to GameStop, like, and Nvidia, like Nvidia is horrifically overvalued. They are
Mhm.
they are in a extreme growth phase right now, but that will peter out as people get their AI facilities set up and that sort of thing. So that growth is not sustainable. And you can make
Right.
the argument all day, like, well, like the market is forward looking, right? So it's like, okay, so it's allowed to be forward looking with Nvidia, but it's not okay for it to be
Exactly.
forward looking with GameStop. Like, fuck you. And they
Yeah.
conveniently ignore the strong cash position consistently, and they may mention no debt, but it's like, oh, yeah, they have no debt, but it's not going to last them too long. And they always try to do the same shit. It's like they try and use people with a position of authority. That's why you have these people that come in and say, "Oh, I'm an M&A lawyer," or "I'm this guy," or like, even certain, let's say, heads of state for certain communities have seemed to take it upon themselves to be the bearer of certain so-called facts, that they seem to clearly misunderstand. And it's a gallop. You know what I mean? Like their goal at the end of the day, assuming it's a concerted effort and not just ignorance, but it doesn't really matter after a certain point. But let's say that, for the sake of conversation, that we are talking about people that are just intending to obfuscate. There's a ragtag group of people, there's like 6 or 7 names that try and show up in every thread on X. And like my girlfriend, even the other day, was like, hey, like, you sure you're not like just wrong? And she was citing these threads where they like screenshotted and zoomed in portions that fit their narrative and highlighted them to make them look really official. But if you had showed the whole paragraph, it the words are right there that shows that it's a nothing burger, right?
Yeah.
But the average person doesn't know. And she knows I've read tons of docket, she knows I've written tons of due diligence and all of that stuff, but it was enough. And that works. The average person's not going to dig much further than that. So if you can paint people as culties, or even the apes, you know what I mean, you can turn that against us and other retail investors as a derogatory term to put them in a position of power and to demean your personal position.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just distracted by that person's came back into. Let me just read this.
Yeah, pull it up. It's actually Bill. It says hi.
Honestly, I can't wait for us to. Oops. So he said hi. Honestly, I cannot wait for us to win so we can help out. The vision of having many homes built where most of the housing market goes down, forcing these big corporations that own these houses left empty. Think twice hoarding. Win
So
what?
is he
Don't bank
referring?
on any one stock.
Let's see here. Hold on. So Pulte. So this is a link to the Pulte tweet or a Pulte post that just says hi, and it's linked directly to this comment. When what? Don't bank on any one stock.
I mean, I met Pulte in person. He's really awesome, and
Yeah,
but I
he
think
seems
people
awesome.
have like it's like I just think that people have a weird idea of what it is that they're going to get paid for, right? Like, oh, I bought this stock. Oh, like I, like where does the money come from? I mean, that's and we are seeing deep value, and I don't know. You got to look past the surface. People want like immediate, like I want this to turn in millions of dollars, and I want it to happen right now. And Pulte's got to do it for me. And it's like Pulte hasn't got to do jack. Like he's
Yeah, it's
doing
like
he's doing his
it's
own
an
thing. Yeah, good.
no. I was just gonna say it's like an insane position to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like we've got these we've got these folks that come and go, but in general, I think it's about investing in.
it's about invest. Sorry, what? I thought you did you get cut off? Famous? You said it was about investing. Oh shoot. Hey, what's up, Anastair?
Oh, it's definitely me and Esther, not famous, who happened to conveniently leave right when I joined. Definitely not that, right? And
Yeah, he'll be back. His mic's not working, I guess.
I was just listening to the conversation, and it was like, "Oh, we're talking about the world and stuff. This is my jam."
Let me just send him a new. I mean, it is the same link, so hopefully. Yeah, I was just gonna read through this Pulte one. I mean, since it just happened, hey Pulte, just want to say thank you for taking the risk to go against corruption. This is very ruthless. You there,
Yo,
famous? There we
can
go.
you guys hear me now? Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know what
See,
happened. I guess it glitched out.
it's all
What's
good.
up, Anazara?
not much.
I didn't leave because of you, man. I think it just glitched.
Oh no, it's I'm very glad that you, a person who is definitely not an AI that I programmed to seem like it's famous, so that you and I, who never seem to be in the same room at the same time, that rumor can be dispelled now forever,
it's
because that's
it's about
definitely not the case.
it's about time we put those rumors to rest. I agree.
Yes, absolutely, yes, definitely. Thank you for understanding. I mean, famous. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Anyways.
um, one of the things that of course, my delusional mind when I see something like this, don't bank on any one stock. Like, again, if you're doing currency structure, um, and there's a buyout at $25 a share, like you could get Teddy shares, but you could also get stock of any other company that invested possibly through that HVC deal, right? Because you'd have that exchange of shares, and if that's part of the merger, then you could actually get lots of different shares, depending on their level of involvement, right? And if it's also a lot of these private companies that are moving to the blockchain, then there's kind of like no limit on like who it could possibly be, right? Like X could IPO through this process as well, onto the blockchain, if I'm not mistaken. As an example, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but
Sorry, I was just reading through these. It kind of shows a lot about like how you interact with us is actually quite similar to like actually taking the time to interact with all these random people. Right? Didn't matter. Like he's not like he's looking at their how much karma they have or anything. Just
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear that internet, being on the internet and online and on Reddit, is not exactly his strong point. Like, he's not as versed in it as some of us, especially somebody like me, right? And you can usually tell, right? It's like back when celebrities would do AMAs. Like some of them were just absolutely terrible at it, and it got to a point where the AMA crowd, they actually had people to help celebrities like actually do the AMA, because they needed people who were more versed in like the etiquette and like the culture of doing things on the internet, right? Because it's a skill of its own, and a lot of us don't recognize it because we just do it every day. It's like breathing, but
Yeah,
for
like raised on the internet.
exactly, like it's real,
Yeah.
right? But Pulte is obviously not as familiar with it, and you can sort of tell, but he's more familiar with it than others, and he's getting more
I think
familiar with it all the time.
I think it goes the other way. It's not even a matter of etiquette, it's a matter of legality, right? Someone came on here to share, like they came on to share this, like, isn't this bearish? And it's like, no, he's not going to commit a financial crime on the internet, right? Like he's
Oh
not
well, I
stupid.
mean that's
No, and
also part
I
of it.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
I know.
that's
I'm
definitely
just
part of it.
saying, like that. There's both ways. It goes both ways. Yeah, there's like etiquette and whatnot, but like literally, like this kind of stuff, like kind of irritates me a lot, actually. And it's like, it shows like people want to get paid, right? They want to win millions or billions or whatever trillions of dollars they think they're going to get out of this, right?
Yeah.
And they're not even smart enough to know that like that that a person like Polte isn't going to incriminate themselves, right? That'd be
Yeah.
stupid just to give someone secure, like, so to make someone feel better
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
No,
doesn't know what they're investing in. Like, if you
people.
don't know what you're holding at this point, like, what are you even doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
these people
I
haven't told you to do anything. Like,
Yeah,
like, and
well,
they don't owe you anything. And
people.
exactly.
also, I do
Uh,
have to head out, guys. I gotta go pick up my girlfriend from work. Yes, there. I'm sorry for speaking over
oh
you
no,
through
no,
this thing,
you're
my
good.
friend.
You're good, man. You're
Um,
good, man.
I'll be back in like 30 or so.
Yeah,
If you guys are still
I'll probably
hanging, then
still be here. So,
I'd love to jump back on, but I do have to go grab her. So I'll see you guys here in a little bit.
all right, sounds good.
All right.
So
Cheers,
Thanks, man.
guys.
Cheers.
all I wanted to say was is that like a lot of people, they just want to be told what it is. They don't like all of the games and the wishy-washiness and the deception and the secrecy and stuff like that. They're tired of it, right? And I totally understand how that feels like, because I'm definitely one of those people which is like, I want to get paid and I want it to happen today. Like every day. And I know it's not going to happen today. Like, and I'm not letting it like destroy my life or anything like that, right? But I understand the sentiment, but I also understand that of course that they're not going to just outright tell you what it is. Like
So,
it,
but
it
like, I think even that sentiment, like, I actually don't understand the sentiment. I understand the sentiment of like wanting to be financially secure, but like trolling someone online doesn't somehow magically give you financial independence, right? Or, it's like,
oh, are you talking about like the shills
well,
and
just like
such
I just hear
and
so
the
many
detractors?
people like just want, like they claim to be part of this community, and they're like, Polte needs to come out and just clearly tell us. And it's like, tell us what? There's a fight. Giants are fighting, right?
Yeah,
Real fights. They're actually more than just a keyboard warrior. They're literally out on the front lines,
yeah,
and we get a benefit from that.
yeah.
And I'm so grateful to even be part of it. And I just like the level of ingratitude just kind of just really grinds me. And like, I just want people to know, like,
Sure,
look,
sure.
like, figure out what's actually legal. If you don't know, then just shut up. Right. Isn't
Well,
like,
well, there's a couple things that I can tell you that might help you like understand it, because you did say that you don't understand these people, and I'm all about spreading understanding.
no, no,
Um,
no. I understand that they're being ungrateful,
well,
and I
I don't. I think
understand.
that is the reason I'm saying this is because I think that is a limited way of looking at it. Because certainly there are definitely people out there who are ungrateful, but there's also people who are really struggling right now, and this is like
I
a
understand
beacon
they're
of hope.
struggling, but that they're struggling. It's not Polte's responsibility to fix their struggling position, right?
Well,
And
sure. I
that's
mean,
what I mean. So
well,
so for anyone to direct their struggle at Polte and make it his responsibility is in my opinion just, it just shows the type of person they are.
sure. Yeah,
Y-
I
You know.
totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm
we got
not.
Primal here. What's up, Primal?
Hey, what's up, Mike? I've been listening to the show, long time PP show listener, and I agree with what you're saying. I totally agree. Like, nobody's gonna give you anything on a free plate. There's always bits and crumbs that you have to piece together. And then we're talking about systematic collapse. At the same
Yeah.
time, we're going into an election year. Like
Yeah.
this is never this these moments have never been more important. And I think we should just, as like a community, as you were saying, is help each other in the sense of, all right, these are the timbits we got, or these are the
Yeah.
little facts we got, and we're piecing them all together. And if we're looking for a quick hit, you're gonna look, it's gonna be a quick, it's gonna be a quick moon. If we take our time with this, like let it all play out, let the rocket, get into second gear, get into third gear, get into fourth gear, that's when we're going to really really see the big wealth that everybody's talking about. And it can't happen, especially in the 11th round. Like, you just can't go and box with Ali in the 11th round and say, oh, I made it to the 11th, we've won. No, we got to make it to the bell. Either we're going to knock them out or we're going to win by decision.
Yeah. And it's like going to a game, I haven't I remember going to like Sacramento Kings games and whatnot just because friends were. I mean, I think it's interesting to watch. I don't really find a lot. Like, I don't understand how feeling like passionate one way about a team. I remember watching two teams and like I was just cheering for the other team because I was like, well, no one's cheering for him. I just like, I don't know. This guy actually picked me up out of my seat. I was like, I don't know. I was like 12 years old or something. I was in the nosebleed section of the Kings game. He picks me out of my seat and just says, "You don't come in the house of the Kings," and and I'm like, and root for anyone else. And I was like, "I won't." Okay, like he's like, "I'm kidding, but seriously, don't."
Yeah.
But like, actually, I don't know. It's just like I don't know. I mean, people want to feel like they're part of it just by feeling a strong emotion. Like, oh, it's my team's winning, and it's like, find a way to really help. Like, what would actually, like, because like, you know, back when AJ told me a long time ago, he just, somewhat seemed like he was trolling me, right? But he's like, because never been a fundamentals play, and now I realize, I think he assumed I knew much about. Oh, WATDC, $50 deposit for at Johnny Jake's. So so I think he assumed that I knew about Ryan Cohen, but I actually like didn't, because somehow I like just suddenly got pretty involved in the r/short squeeze, but I didn't actually know actually anything, to be honest, about Ryan Cohen at that point. And so, once I did, it's like, oh, that's why everyone feels so passionate, is because they really believe in Ryan because of his track record. And so I just think that we should look at Pulte if you want to, right? Like, if you see the same things you see in Ryan Cohen and Pulte, great. Like, but to say like, yeah, I'll follow you as long as you do everything I say, even if it's irrational.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
just ridiculous.
it's just ridiculous.
That's just
And
what. Go ahead. Go ahead. I apologize.
well, no, just that, like really, like why don't you say at Ryan Cohen? Tell us right now what you're doing, or I hate you. Right? It sounds as equally as dumb, and it's just
You
somehow
know,
because Pulte has made himself more accessible. People think they have more of a right to, like,
hundred
I don't
percent.
know. Yeah, it's just crazy.
And it's just also like, I agree when you said you were in the R short squeeze. Like, I just when I got into this, I just left the army, and I'm like, all right, dude, I got to figure out a way, this and that. Long story short, I started investing and like that. The same first month, all of a sudden GameStop's ripping, and then I find myself on Reddit, and then I find myself, you just start fumbling through our, subreddits, and next thing you know, I'm on the PP show. But the one DD that kind of helped me was at the very beginning, and then I kind of created my own hypotheses from it. Was the House of Cards? If anybody remembers that, I don't remember the dude that wrote it. It was like two and a half years ago. It was like a
Yeah,
pretty long DD, the House of Cards, and that's when I just got the framework, and then I just kind of like started adding my own this and that, and then listening to the PP show, also listening to you guys. I really like you, Michael. You're very calm, cool headed. You know what I mean? You always bring that very you bring a demeanor that is needed. Like, everybody can't be hype all the time. You have to be able to make it through the next day. We all understand that everything is at stake in the world. What country is not on the verge of collapse? As much as we want to say it.
Yeah.
It just seems like every country is on the verge of collapse, whether it be politically, whether it be financially. Everybody is just so unstable right now. And we're seeing it in the forefront here in the States, and I personally thought it was going to happen a couple of years ago, but then again, this is my first rodeo. So I'm realizing that when these big momentum changes happen, they tend to happen in election cycles. So, and you're seeing it even with Speaker McCarthy getting removed yesterday. And I'm not big into politics. You guys know I type in the PPCO chat who I believe in, so I don't need to say it out loud all the time. But I just think that we're heading into something that we have never done before. And you also have to remember, like, this, we're coming up on the 25 years of Y2K. Like, we're not just going to go to 25 years into Y2K and not, just keep everything the same. No, we're going to take another dramatic shift forward, so whatever that be. And when you go through dramatic shifts, there's going to be extreme volatility, like amazing things going to happen. And I'm just glad that we as a community see the opportunities, and at the same time we're all here for a common goal, but we all have our like own journeys. We all have our own way of interpreting what we're seeing in front of us. But at the same time, we just at least have the common knowledge to be like, look, we've been here for this long. What's a couple more days? Everything seems well. You guys went to go see Polte. To me, when you guys went to see Polte, I had known we won, because it was
Oh
just
yeah.
like, why would that? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you invite people? Again, Bill Polte, like, he doesn't. Who knows how he is involved or not? But for him to have access to the people that are involved, and then for you guys to have access to him, speaks mountains of where we were to where we are. And for
Yeah.
me, like, I know PP says it all the time, the tinfoil. You say it all the time, the tinfoil. I agree. I don't think there's any, like, when people say fundamentals, there's no fundamentals in the market. Nothing is on fundamentals. Like, let's just use Tilray Brands example, right? All they keep doing is buying distilleries right and left. You know what I mean? And every day I look, their stock is going down. How is that even possible? There's no fundamentals in the market. The only fundamental is this is it. We're on one of the biggest verges of collapses in U.S. history, or we can just make a dramatic change, and we got to accept what comes next. New people are going to get money. The engine is going to keep roaring. There's going to be some of us that are just going to pick up where, the let's say Doug Sifu, you know what I mean, where this BS is, what they're doing now. Some of us are going to do that, but some of us are also going to go out and help people. Maybe go into some of these small villages in the world and build water fountains for people. You know what I mean? So, like, the game is not going to end. Like, for us to think that all of us are going to do good I think that's just delusional. But I do feel there's going to be strong factions of us that are going to do a lot of good things. But I think this was all, looking back at it now for a couple of years, I think a lot of this was manufactured, because the one main thing that's going to come out of this is there's going to be more people in the market, which means more liquidity flowing through the market. Yeah, it'll take a little bit of a hit first, but once all
Mhm.
the bailout money comes in, there's going to be more retail investors that are just supercharged, just more and more money in the market. And the people that were in for the quick buck, that made their quick buck, they're about to get destroyed. Like you guys said, they're about to get rug pulled. And I just feel like it's coming up on 25 years of Y2K, and I just feel like we're heading into, like, like Star Trek, the next generation. And it's gonna be wild.
It is the next, and that's what we're getting paid for if we do make out well on this play, right? Is that we're getting paid to see the future. That it's like the writing's on the wall. Like, you know, they've been trying to do satellite phones for a long time. Like, what's the American economy going to do when literally, all over the world, everyone's paying a subscription service to Starlink? That's pretty crazy to think about. Like,
Yep.
what's that going to do for our spot as far as being, you know, our country, right, in general, right? It's going to be a huge deal. And so, I mean, there's lots of things that are going to be these radical changes. And like we get to see them coming. You know, radical changes is like the fundamentals of the economy, like you were talking about. The fundamentals is you play nice with the people like that are going to rate your bonds, or they're going to, you know, Moody's and
Exactly.
Goldman Sachs, and like that was the fundamentals of the market before. No one would say that, but that's how it was. And you know, we get to be part of this like amazing thing where people are actually going to they're actually going to fight against that and switch it, right? And so for me, you said that you were bullish the fact that we even went to Pulte's. I was bullish before when I first showed my face on the PP show. I really
Yeah.
had to think about it. I was like, do I want to put my face behind this? Because like
Yeah.
I'll either look like the biggest idiot or the biggest genius. And so at that point, I was convinced. I was convinced we were at least going to make it back to $7, and I had thought about it a lot.
I remember you said
And
that.
yeah, and so I mean that was the whole reason I got on the PB show. I was like, hey, I just think we need to like at least give the credit to like to the fact that there's a good reason to be here just on a fundamentals play. That if they restructure the debt and all they downsize, like it really could get to $7 as just a fair value. And but the more I started like, but at that time I really didn't know that much about Ryan Cohn. I know it sounds crazy. I mean I was busy, had 3 jobs at the time, so
I understand.
like but then like I started to see it, and so for me like, you know, the first time Pulte came on, he's like, hey, Ryan Cohen's involved. The only thing that switched was like, I mean I still was already all in. It's not like I could be more all in, right? I just suddenly was like, wait, this is probably going to go. This is when Pulte first came on the PP show. At that point I was like, you know what, I think we're definitely going above $7.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's all that, and that was back then, right? I didn't, when I went to go see Pulte in person, I did get more excited, but just because like, wow, he's a really cool person and he's working with other really cool people, and like this might be even bigger than just a Bed Bath and Beyond thing.
Yeah.
That's what got me excited. It didn't really change the story of Bed Bath and Beyond. It just was like, oh, like there's people that actually are going to kind of reframe, you know, the market. And
The
that's like I think
world.
the biggest thing we can do is it's not that we can control people, because we shouldn't control people, but like we can kind of help support people by giving them the framework they need in order to be successful. And I see that he's doing that. He gave PP the framework to be successful, right?
Yep.
And you know, people were like, oh, you know, it's money, and you know, like that looks weird, and it's like but like uh I mean, the media has been stealing money from people forever. like like secretly through Wall Street
100%.
paying, you know, all these hedge funds paying off the media and all that. And so it's like people don't even know how many millions of dollars that the media has stolen from them, and yet like giving people the opportunity to donate $500, that suddenly is sus. Like that's just
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
really weird. It shows how much people don't understand even how like what it takes to run a business, right? Like I have no idea. Like anyone that was like, oh, that's weird, and it's like, has anyone ever done a business? I've had a few businesses. Like I had a photography business. You know, when I started when I was in high school, I taught Photoshop lessons. You know, I'm my own kind of business, and I've done, you
Yeah.
know, all sorts of other kind of, you know, from mowing lawns to whatever. I've done a lot of things, like just independently, and it's really hard to actually just make money like without like someone else
100%.
ma- having the framework for you. And you know, and so I don't know, it just was like, you know, just the backlash towards that was crazy, and the expectations about like what Pulte could even do, like to give us any more confirmation than we needed. He pulled out freaking ice cream. Okay,
I
like I
know.
started
I saw that.
bawling.
I just think that you guys are doing amazing. I think in general, that's we as a community are doing such an amazing job. Like, and I just, this is just a crazy thought. I just
Yeah,
totally feel like the world is heading toward two superpowers, and I'm talking about people. I'm talking about Elon Musk, and I'm talking about Jeff Bezos. Like, isn't it surprising that all of a sudden The SEC is hitting Bezos with all these stuffs against Amazon, saying it's becoming too much of a monopoly. And then at the same time, you're also seeing Elon Musk kind of being whispered around with this bed bath play and things like
Hmm.
that, like at the same time. And you just look, and I'm just sitting here looking like, man, like what do these guys not own at this point? Like it's a space race, like you said about Starlink, like being
Yeah.
able to connect everything. It's just getting to the point where it's just like, all right, you're just gonna have to pick a side,
And but people
and
don't even understand what sides there are, right? Like
exactly.
I think there's a lot of different cartels and people that are kind of frenemies and whatnot. But
Yes,
like, why is it that the government started getting mad at Amazon? Well, I know someone that worked for the consulate, right, over in the Middle East, right, and so it's always like, hey, American interests first. That's kind of their motto. And so when you have a company like Amazon and now they're not doing as many, American brands, they're just getting whatever cheap they can from wherever.
exactly.
That's suddenly now it's like, well, they know that like infrastructure wise, if they let that play out for very long, our country is gonna implode, right? And so, because then, yeah, so it kind of ran its course, and so
Hundred
it
percent.
makes sense that there's feedback, but people don't even see that. They're like, oh, I got a cheaper item, and it got here same day delivery, and that's all they know. And it's like, look, like if you don't understand how things work, you won't know. If all you can do is cheer for someone, you won't even know who to cheer for. Like someone else is going to tell you who to cheer for. They're going to tell you who to fight for.
Exactly.
And
But
we're in a technological era. We can figure things out at least better than we do, and we
like
should.
going back to your point, I want to let Tim Foyle go for a second, but going back to your point, like when you talked about the media, like Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Like what's that I think I would look at that as a top 5, media outlet, in America. So it's
Yeah,
just and I got nothing against Jeff Bezos, like don't get me wrong. I'm just saying the fact that it's him or Elon right now. And you saw it at the World Cup. You saw Ken Griffin sitting in the same box or in that same area, and Elon was there too. And it's crazy as it sounds, like you know what I mean. And I'm like again, I'm with everybody. Forget the market makers, like you know what I mean. It's total BS what they're doing. But at the same time, you have to take a deep breath, and you just got to be like, look, man, money is connected to money. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. All of these guys are connected to one another, and the fact that like that's how we live in America. It just gives me more conviction that when one of these once in a lifetime plays happen, you have to be in it. You have to be in it. And with the surging of shills and the surging of negative, sentiment towards it, it only just kind of it's kind of like reverse thinking. It only just kind of makes me more bullish because, like many people have said, if nothing is gonna happen, why are you poking a dog? You know what I mean? If you
yeah,
keep poking a dog, dude, you're gonna find out. And I just totally feel they keep poking the BBBY community. They keep poking the GameStop community. They keep poking. Even I'll just use AMC. Even though I'm not a big believer in what their CEO is doing. I think he's fooling them. But at the same time, it's just sooner or later, it's like you keep poking that dog. You're gonna get what you're looking for, and it's not gonna be good. So
what do you sorry what do you wait,
what I
I
mean,
was adding
no, you
someone
good.
as a mod, so
What I
good.
mean by that, it's like all these shills, all these media companies trying to force us to think, like forced thinking. What was that guy, Larry Fink from BlackRock? He came on and gave an interview saying
uh
that if the public doesn't want to do it, we'll force think them to do it. We have ways to force think them. You know what I
what
mean?
I Yeah, what I'm excited about is that this is all, we all have this recorded, right? Everything is happening, and there's going to be a dossier made with all the people and all the things that they've done, and that they'll get kind of you know black marked for the rest of their life, where we will all know that of their crimes, and whether or not they're in jail or not, like it'll be
Yeah.
public information. And it's like, you said this after this, like, I mean, all these people, like the SEC admitted naked short selling exists. And yet people are still saying, it doesn't. And we have record of that. And it's like, look, you don't even care what the SEC says. You're still trying to spin a narrative despite what the SEC is doing. Like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Don't forget
Mhm.
that there are a lot of people out there who are being paid to do this sort of thing. So you have to keep in mind that them getting you angry and getting you engaged is part of their play, right? So the only way to actually fight that is to either ignore it or to just act with an intellectual integrity that takes them at their word value, and you hold them to that. You don't let them squirm by. It's like they say something that's like that's factually incorrect. You don't let go of that point. You keep bringing it up over and over and over again, because what you're doing is you're showing other people who are watching that, that you are sticking to your guns, and that
100%.
and that it's what, and this isn't just a feeling that you have. This is something that is very well thought out, and we got there not because we stumbled in it, right? This is not something you can just stumble your way into. This was the result of hours of work and thought and discussion,
And re
this
and
and reasonable inference and
mhm.
logical deduction, right? Like,
and
if you
and
have that on your side, there's nothing that you have to worry about. There really
yeah.
isn't. And like, you can like the way I see it, I look at all these people who are like saying these shill things, and it's like it doesn't even phase me. It doesn't even
Mhm.
phase me. Like,
Mhm.
most of the time when I come onto the PP show, or sometimes when I come with you guys, or when I'm seeing what people are talking about in the spaces, like 8 times out of 10, people are talking about the shills, and
Yeah.
every single time I'm like, why are you guys even talking about them? Like, why do you even like give them the time? Why do you give them even any room in your mind to begin with? And I'm not trying to like disparage you guys or say that you're stupid or you're wrong to like be upset at these guys, because I totally get why you feel that way, and I totally
Well, no, I'm
understand why
I'm
you would want to be that way.
it's
I don't
for
want to
me
come
it's not
across
a
as like,
they don't make me upset. Like, I'm just saying that, I think that it's sad when to the fundamentals of investing is you figure out what private equity is doing, what, like, which, who's in bed with the whatever, Citadel or, Goldman Sachs, and then what are they
Yep.
pumping, and then just follow that. So, like, that's what I'm saying is like, I'm not mad at them, but like, I'm definitely going to write down, like, take the time to write down their names and map it all out, just so that they can't pull any more tricks, right?
yeah, and which
And
is really good to do, by the way. If you keep track of who says what, because they're gonna
and
lie and
make a
say
spider
bullshit
web, and
later.
it's like,
Yeah,
these are all the people, and it's like, look, if you're doing, if I see any company doing it with that, just so you know, if you're doing business with any of these people on this list, like, I'm not going to be part of it. So
I
that's why I
100%
bring it up.
agree.
I don't
yeah.
care what I don't care what they say. I mean, they just sound stupid, and I don't even comment. I mean, most of the time, every once in a while, but like, you know, um, yeah. So I'm just excited for justice to kind of happen, and for the regular person to understand, like, look, investing in a person matters. It's kind of hard to, we give people fake authority by building them up in whatever way, but like, we need to realize what gives someone actual authority, what makes someone worth following. And, I mean, that's why, one thing that brings us all together is the fact that we see that Ryan Cohen has a lot of those qualities, right? He's not taking a
Yes, he does.
paycheck, and, he has the vision. He's going to use creativity and actually solve problems, instead of just take as much extract as much value, and then just, like a vampire, and then just walk away,
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
Mark
I
Tritton.
think the creation of value by paying attention to what people want or what people might want, and giving it to them, and making sure that your words are backed up with action, and that usually action is the foot that you lead with first. Like, going forward, like, you're probably going to want to figure out like, who do I trust, because you can't just rely on Ryan Cohen for everything, right? You have to live
Right.
your
No,
own
I
life and
mean,
make your own connections.
Yeah.
So going forward, you want to be like, okay, how can I figure out who I could trust? And the simple answer is you have to watch what people do. Pay way more attention to what people do rather than what they say. That is something
100%.
that I see a lot of people fail at, and it's a very simple thing that you can do to help understand who you can trust, right? Um, Beyond that, it becomes more circumstantial, but you have to start with, you know, they're saying something and you believe it up until the point where, you know, you have to figure out, okay, where's the line, right? At what point does this go from giving someone the benefit of the doubt to, oh, they might be, you know, either incompetent or lying about something, right? And that's not necessarily like a binary choice, but you have to figure out where the boundary is, and you should think about it ahead of time before you make a decision. It's like, okay, this person is selling me this particular idea or this, you know, potential business opportunity or whatever. You know, define your boundaries, like, because it could fail for totally normal reasons or things outside of anyone's control, but it could also fail because there was mistrust or miscommunication. You have to define what those things are for you, and everyone's going to have slightly different lines, so people are going to do different things. But think about that stuff ahead of time, because you always will need to do that. And I see a lot of people fail at that, and it's just such a shame because they end up causing themselves more trouble than they really needed to deal with.
Hey, what's up, tinfoil? What's up, Guru?
Hey, Michael, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. Great to see your face, man.
It's great to see yours. It's Anna Sarah and me. I'm an old man. Primal. Hello,
It's
Primal.
primal, yeah.
Um, no,
What's up, Tinker?
I had to charge my phone there for a bit just to make sure it wouldn't die on me. No, I appreciate I had to definitely pop on once the media got involved because that's something I'm quite passionate about. The reality that we've lived in for a very long time was that and being born in the 80s myself and growing up throughout the 90s. Gosh, I remember when there just in that naivety that a preteen teenager has. It's like you would watch certain news outlets because that's what my parents watched. And so, without to be so wordy as I usually am, uh, there's certainly a a great deal of whitewashing that's going on. If you've been following anything in the UK, they're actually either they've already done it or they're about to pass a bill that is, I mean, it's a full blown censorship bill. Um, and when we go back to the kind of the height of the pandemic, we had very new words like misinformation, disinformation. Um,
Yeah,
effectively, effectively, you have really two options. You have the truth or lies. It's literally that simple. It's very simple. The truth is the observable, measurable, and repeatable as, information. Let me try to be more to the point. When we start to create new language and vernacular to describe something that already is clearly described, it's either true or not. And what I do see is a movement to effectively censor dissenting opinion. Now, that's something that I've observed. And when there's a narrative and there's a particular agenda, the anything that could be considered a dissenting opinion that I've seen in the last several years is usually very quickly labeled as misinformative. Now, I totally believe that we're all individuals. We have different mechanisms of how we absorb information and how we process that in our minds. And I've I'd be the first person to say that I've read something incorrectly or misinterpreted something on my own. And yes, that should be caught by my peers. And that's why we have certain mechanisms set up for this. One of the main issues that I'm starting to see is there's a lack of personal accountability, and we would rather defer the blame rather than take it upon ourselves when a mistake is made. I do it. I still do it. I'm trying really hard, but it's embarrassing and it's very hard to admit when you're wrong. Um, and I mean, gosh, it's a huge rabbit hole. I mean, we could go all the way into the. I was reading just earlier. What's this guy's name? He came up with a term called patternicity in a book. What was it? 2008. This guy, what's his name? Michael Shermer. And he basically explains you've got like a type 2, a false positive, and a type 1, a false positive, and a type 2 error being a false negative. And he just kind of goes on to explain that most of us are here in evolutionary terms. You know, we're walking through the brush and we hear a rustle in the leaves. Those of us that commit this type 1 error, this false positive, we stop. We think that the rustle in the leaves is, you know, saber-toothed tiger coming to kill us. We stop
Right.
and we're like, we look around and we're like, oh, it's just the wind. Well, then you've got this handful, you know, of folks that don't, and they're like, it's just the wind. Well, and it happens to be saber-toothed tiger, and their genes don't enter this long. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but the point I guess I'm trying to make is that we're we are in we're in an era where information moves very quickly. Information moves in a direction that's centered around who is first rather than who is confirmed. And it's more important to be the first one rather than to even make sure that that what you're disseminating is actual truth. And that's a very uh, dicey thing, because again, if it's not in line with an agenda, uh, then you're probably going to be dismissed as misinformative. And so for me, you know, if it's not true, it's a lie. If it's being uttered by somebody, and whether they know better or not, like they might not even have the actual accurate information simply because it's not been made available. I've been pouring into some of these documents about corona and the whole COVID thing, and it's kind of surprising. It's a little scary, you know, when you start to look at certain things. Again, I have my own confirmation bias, and I'm not going to say that I don't. I'm distrustful of any of it because I see a direction where it's headed, and it's quite for me, and I'll leave it at that. You know, relinquish the floor here, but yeah, I see that it's very big brother, and it's like, oh, you're not thinking like we want you to, so we're going to censor you because
Yes.
of misinformation.
I think the obfuscation would be the word of the I don't know, decade or longer. That there's lots of, I think that people respond to fear more than they respond to passion, sadly. Like you were saying, you know, the people survive that hear the rustling in the leaves and think it's an actual danger. And I think that's something powerful about us, is that we're not scared. It's like, you know, oh, like Ken Griffin's gonna like naked short your stock into oblivion, and we're like, go for it. Like,
Exactly.
it's like, you can't control us. We're not scared.
Well,
Yeah.
Whereas anyone else, it's like, oh shoot, like, you know, they downgraded the rating of the company I'm holding. I'm just gonna have to, you know, liquidate it. And it's like, whoa, like, you know, do you really believe your thesis? So, hey Brian,
And
what's
the
up? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Primal.
and the majority of us, the majority of us are individual investors. We have our own thoughts, and these are our first experiences in the market. So it's like when they try to scare us, like we don't know what we're supposed to be scared about, and that's the crazy part. A lot of a lot of us have come from like lower middle class or trying to build.
yep,
So it's like, all right, you scare us, but at the same time, what are you scaring us to live the life we already do now, or maybe just
exactly.
downgrade a little bit more? Like where's the fear
It's
in
true.
that? You
It's
know,
true.
like,
It, it's
it's scary if you have billions of dollars and you can lose it all.
It's very real.
and I have to agree. I mean, I was
But I
about to bring
apologize for
that up.
cutting you off. Go ahead.
No, I just totally agree with that. And in fact, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, what do I have to be afraid of about being where I've always been my whole life? I'm you know, there's the 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 human condition to feel like they're belonging to something that elevates them above the rest of others. Like I mean, the nature of secret societies feeds on that principle that, you know, once you're initiated, now you're going to gain levels in this special club. And it just conditions the mind that you know, you're so, I don't know, it's the there's so much psychological warfare
You're
involved.
onto something.
And we have, you know, we have this innate desire to feel very special about ourselves. We want to set ourselves apart. I'm no exception. You know, anytime that I excel or I have a better skill than my peers, I'm just like, oh, ha, ha, ha. I can, yes, I can do it better. And that's kind of a programmed response in me, where I'm trying to change that and say, hey, guess what? You can too. You can achieve this level of this skill set. Let me teach you. That's something too that, um, being a Southern man and working with, you know, very skilled laborers, very skilled technicians, skilled carpenters, uh, whatever it may be, there was a, I guess maybe you could say, you know, a threatening aspect to the fact that, you know, in one generation, you have a lot of people that can excel very quickly, and there's maybe a job security fear, or you know, I've been good at this for, you know, the last 20 years. Here's this young blood and he gets it in like a year and a half. Well, I'm going to hold back. I'm not going to teach him everything I know because I'm afraid for my own well-being. um, you know, and again, you know, we have this innate desire to set ourselves apart. And that's why I really stress the importance of the acceptance of diversity. I'm not going to be good at everything. I can't. I'm going to be good at the things that I'm interested in the most. And and let me be the best at that I can be. Meanwhile, I see and recognize these skills in, you know, all of the other people on the team, and let's enhance each other to hone those. It, you know me. I have the gift of gab, and I will ramble on. I'm gonna stop, and so, you know, come back. You know, just let me shut up for a second.
We'll say hi to Brian real quick, see if his audio works.
Oh, is that good? Can you hear me?
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
up, man?
All right, awesome. All right, you got all those links I sent you?
It sounds a little muffled though.
A little
Just
muffled.
FYI.
A little muffled.
Yeah, I can barely understand a word you're saying.
All right, let me try to fix this again.
I think it might be the
Go ahead
earbud,
now. Is it the earbud? Okay, let me take that out now.
probably.
Who knows?
Real quick, Anna Sarah, I have not been able to thank you personally. I know it was a little while ago. I did catch that video. Amazing work.
Oh,
Amazing work.
thanks. I appreciate that.
Amazing
Yeah.
work. Yes.
It's definitely not exactly what I had envisioned, but I currently lack the skills to make that. So, but we're working on that. I have another video that I'm working on. I'm already picking up some new stuff. So hopefully
the downfall of a real artist is that it's never good enough for us. Right?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I think this next
Thanks,
one will be
Gravitron,
better.
by the way.
What's that?
Excellent.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just thinking Gravitron. He said natural selection.
Yeah. So I'm curious, since we're talking about these things about, our destiny and like what we're, and this opportunity and like very vague sense of terms, but and maybe this is still too soon. But I'd like to talk about like what specifically you guys have in mind, what you're going to do after this is over, because I think we all agree it's almost time for this to happen. And I mean, I certainly would like more spaces to talk about these sorts of things. So I've got things in mind. I'd be happy to share, but I kind of want to
hear from Brian first. Let's see if his audio works a little bit better.
Okay, yeah. if you can hear
There
me.
we go.
Is that any better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, that's much,
Much
better,
better.
actually. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, beautiful. All right, so hello everybody.
Right.
I had to finally make my physical debut. It's great to be here.
Great to have you.
Thank you. So yeah, if you want to just jump into it, we can jump into that tinfoil
Yeah,
that I
so
brought.
Brian mentioned to me earlier that he had some tinfoil to go through. So
All right, bring it on. Let's see it. I love
I
it.
think everyone here might be into tinfoil.
A
Yeah.
little bit.
You know, just
I've
real
heard.
quick before he jumps into it, I just want to say, it's almost disrespectful to call it tinfoil at this point, don't you think?
Right?
Uh,
It makes more sense than all the dockets and everything.
exactly. Anyway,
The
sorry.
dockets do still make sense. I'm into both. I go both ways, I guess you could say. I like the tinfoil,
yeah,
I like
no,
I
same
like the
here.
fundamentals.
Tinfoil just sounds amazing, though. It just sounds right.
I can't argue with that. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, Brian. Go ahead.
No, you're good. All right, so
is this the
let's
first thing
see.
you want to
Okay,
start
well,
off with? I think.
no. Let's start with RC's Twitter. So yeah,
Which
go ahead. All right, so let me
which
put it
part
to
of
you this
RC's
way.
Twitter?
All right. Sorry, say that again.
Which part of RC's Twitter? Like the recent one?
No, you're gonna want to go to March 14th, 2022, and that's significant because I don't know if anybody knows this, but it is National Butterfly Day.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, so I've realized that a lot of us have been asking, what is the butterfly? Where is the butterfly? Uh, Sometimes even how is the butterfly? But nobody's really asked when is the butterfly. So
I'm asking
I
when.
figured,
Tell me.
yeah. So yeah, apparently it's March 14th, National Butterfly Day. And if did you
I
pull
have
up
this
RC's
one
Twitter? I'm not seeing it yet.
from 2022.
Yeah, March 14th, 2022.
There's March 12th and then March 16th.
No, that's May.
Oh, yes.
You're looking at May.
They both
That's
start
the
with
wrong
M.
M month.
Long M month.
Okay.
There it is. Yep. Short sellers are the dumb stormtroopers of the galaxy. So yeah, that's interesting already, I think. But if you go to the tweet before that, I think it adds a little bit more context to what we could be looking at here.
Sent
So yes,
a
9
sent
days
letter to
before.
BBBY board, got no response. Sent email to CEO
That
asking for discussion, haven't gotten a prompt response. Too busy talking to expensive consultants. Finally got a response from.
Right back.
Right. So right. So you get this tweet about short sellers being the dumb stormtroopers of the galaxy. What was it, like 6 days after Ryan Cohen sent that letter to the Bed Bath and Beyond board, and I think we're all pretty familiar with that letter, and hopefully the end of it where he says, and I quote, hopefully leadership acts with urgency to implement the aforementioned suggestions. Given that I am the chairman of GameStop and overseeing a systematic transformation, I am not in a position to join Bed Bath's board and personally drive the initiatives outlined in this letter. This does not mean, however, that RC Ventures will not seek to hold the board and management accountable if necessary. Sincerely, Ryan Cohen. So yes, that's That's part one. I would consider.
I like it.
So now you can pull up. Well, let's go to his likes first. Let's go to his likes. Specifically, the one where he liked that Star Wars meme of him and Carl Icahn,
Oh, it's still up there
Bezos.
actually.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
still up there. Still up there. Posted by Bill Pulte and liked by Ryan Cohen. And I find this interesting because it's like the only kind of reference to Bed Bath and Beyond, even though it's just a meme. But I found it very interesting. Kind of a coincidence, some might say.
Yeah.
And then, right, okay, so uh, that's the only one that's been posted. So now you can pull up that user Majestic Moose because he's the one that actually made this, and uh, somehow Bill Pulte found it. I guess because he's been lurking in the Bed Bath and Beyond sub, the PP show, to be more specific.
I mean, he posts in Beyond Uranus, it looks like, as well. Maybe that's why.
Right. So yeah, one. I'm not sure exactly how Bill Pulte got it, but he got it from one of these Bed Bath and Beyond subs. And yeah, so you can see here that Majestic Moose has made all uh, probably like 20 or 30 of these pictures, but for some reason, um, and I believe if you go further back, you'll be able to find the one that the Star Wars one. Oh, is it right there? Yeah, the short strike back. Right. So
Actually,
there's that one, and it's in a trove of all these pictures that he made, and for some reason Bill Pulte decided to post this one there, and then Ryan Cohen decided to like it. So
Okay, where are you going with
and
that?
that's not all. Okay, so now we're gonna go to Star Wars. What does Star Wars have to do with butterflies, right? Because that's kind of where this is going. This is um, this is what I find to be the most relevant here, or
yeah.
in my personal opinion. So so let's go to um, that Star Wars link that I sent you. I'm gonna try to find it for myself here.
I don't know if you actually.
But even
This one. This one. The Mandalorian.
right. Yeah. And yeah, that's just it's CBR, right? CBR.com.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So if you don't mind reading this along with me, then let's get into it. And I'll go ahead and do the reading unless
Oh,
anybody
I can
else
do
wants
it.
to. But
The blue butterflies seen in Disney Plus's Mandalorian might tie Baby Yoda to both Vader and Kylo Ren. Warning: the following contains spoiler for Mandalorian, specifically the episode "The Tragedy," now streaming. Reading this, right?
yeah. You could just read the whole thing.
Star Wars: The Mandalorian might have teased a possible connection between Grogu and the Skywalker family. The tragedy. Fans see Grogu sit upon the Seeing Stone on Tython and conjure up its inert force powers, relaying a message to someone in the Star Wars universe regardless of who that message might be sent to, be it Luke Skywalker, Ezra Bridge, or some unknown Jedi. The events preceding Grogu's communication through the Force have sparked conversation. Upon being placed on the stone, Grogu is distracted by a group of blue butterflies that dance by. While these might be just innocuous butterflies, these insects have appeared on several occasions in the Star Wars canon and have deep ties to two dark side users. Wow, maybe that might be where, when he says he has a dark humor, that might be Darth Vader's butterflies. In order to understand
Yeah.
why butterflies on Tython link Grogu to Darth Vader, it's important to look at the events of Marvel's Darth Vader, Darth Lord of the Sith. In issue 8, Vader manifests himself as a Force entity during meditation. While the world is a grotesque monstrosity of storms, with he himself being a molten, grotesque shadow of his former self, there are several bright blue butterflies manifesting around him. These butterflies represent Vader's suppressed light side, still lingering within him despite the overwhelming darkness. It's
Sound
possible
kind of
even
familiar already?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering if people are starting to get the picture here.
Okay, where are you going with this? I still don't understand where we're going with this.
It's the let's see.
Just
Put it
let it happen,
simply.
Anastasia.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I just said just let it happen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll try to answer Anastasia's question though. It's the connection between the butterflies and the Star Wars meme and the day that Ryan Cohen did say that that tweet that stormtroopers are the or I can't recall it word by word, but
Short sellers with
something
a
about
dumb short.
of the
Short sellers
galaxy,
with a
right?
dumb. Mm-hmm.
Right, and that tweet was made on National Butterfly Day. So so yeah, if we carry on, it should get a little bit more clear, I hope. But to harken back to that part with Darth Vader, I think it seems pretty relevant in that if you consider Darth Vader um, to be Bed Bath and Beyond, then here come these butterflies, right? Um, that represent Vader's suppressed light side, still lingering within him despite the overwhelming darkness that
Which, by the way,
the
that
heavens.
actually reminds me, as I was doing research today, trying to figure out, when I was talking to Wally Buck, and I can't remember, earlier, someone had found out that one of the investors in Butterfly was Cost Plus, and we weren't sure if that was Cost Plus World Markets or whether that was Cost Plus the drug market or the pharmaceuticals. And so I didn't realize this, but Cost Plus World Markets used to be owned by Bed Bath and Beyond, and they sold it in 2021, and they still have them like everywhere. So I don't know. It's just been
I've actually
interesting
never
how
heard of that.
much, like, yeah, exactly how big of a company Bed Bath and Beyond was. If like just some of their subsidiaries are still around and still a big company, and I mean, they're all over the country. I mean, there's like I think hundreds of these Cost Plus World Markets. So I don't know if they're going to leverage that. I don't know. It said that someone was a 10% shareholder in Butterfly that was Cost Plus. I don't know if it's the pharmaceutical company with I forgot what his name is, Mark Cuban, or whether it's the original subsidiary coming back, World Markets. So just a thought. All right, so I can read this part.
Yeah, it's
It's
interesting.
possible even before communicating with the greater force, Grogu was already being treated by the light side spirit of Anakin Skywalker, the very person who was hunting his kind during the Order 66. Since the butterfly does ultimately disappear once Grogu communes with the stone, Anakin could have materialized in a form visible only to those in touch with the Force in order to help Grogu communicate with the stone. This would not be the first time Force manifested its Jedi as an animal totem either. In Star Wars Rebels, Kanan Jarrus manifests as the wolf Doom after his death. If butterflies represent the good in Anakin following his redemption at the end of the Return of the Jedi, it would make sense that he'd manifest as an insect, which he connects with the light side within. Blue butterflies might have a strong connection to Darth Vader, but they also tie to his grandson Ben Solo. Blue butterflies don't appear in the sequel trilogy in any capacity, but they do play a major role in the Star Wars rollout. A children's cartoon uploaded to the Star Wars Kids YouTube channel. One episode, young Ben ends up embarking on an adventure involving crystal butterflies, blue insects that fly around in caves. While these insects are not connected to the Force, they do bear strong resemblance to both the butterfly Grogu spots, and the ones that manifest in Vader's Force vision. Given this tie, it's possible that Grogu communicated with Ben through the butterflies. Blue butterflies have circled around Skywalker's.
Just wanted
Say
to
what?
point that part out there. Oh, I just wanted to highlight that part, the communication with Ben through the butterflies. But,
Yeah.
You go ahead and keep reading.
Blue butterflies have circled around the Skywalker bloodline for quite some time. While these don't necessarily mean that Grogu communicated with both Anakin and Ben Solo engaging in his Force visions, it indicates that the Force user may have tapped into something bigger than himself without anyone realizing it. Yeah.
Bigger than himself without anybody realizing it.
It's actually funny because
So-
I didn't read this article, but when you shared this with me, that's why I photoshopped myself into the Doctor Strange, and yeah, and I quoted something to the effect of I've stumbled into something bigger than I realized.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a coincidence.
Do you guys remember when PP took the photo in front of Icon's headquarters? It was a bunch of butterflies too.
No
So
way.
maybe, yeah, Michael should know this, right? I think.
Yeah.
it
No,
was
I
just-
didn't realize it until actually on the show when they pointed it out. I mean, like I'm kind of oblivious that way.
Yeah,
I was
I didn't.
there.
Same thing until like somebody brought it up. Like, yeah, and then his wife popped up with a butterfly a couple days later when he put out the post like, "Oh, we won." His wife pops up with a butterfly. It's just, it's just. I'm just kind of trying to piece it to the tinfoil we have going on here.
No, yeah, no, that's good. I actually never heard of any about that. And it's the picture with Ryan Cohen and Carl Icahn.
No, it was when we went to go see Pulte, we went PP, Control Chaos, ABC, and we went to go see Carl Icahn's work, and in front of his where he works, there's a big thing of butterflies, a big statue of butterflies.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's gnarly. Oh man.
It's definitely one of those things where it's like it's hinted at in so many places. Once you kind of understand, now that we've gotten to this point, it's like, wow, I feel kind of stupid that I didn't see that, right? I'd imagine that what it's like since you guys actually got there. But that's definitely the feeling that I've had after the DK butterfly reveal.
And did you guys notice one of Polte's tweets today? It was "Death before rebirth," and it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, it's like a butterfly's. It's like the symbolization of a butterfly's rebirth.
So now
I mean,
that's
their whole
Well,
guts get
Essentially, yeah.
liquefied or whatever when
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
in a cocoon.
I think he's indicating to us with that statement that that's what's happening with our shares right now.
I
Since,
agree. Yeah,
that's currently in limbo.
I agree with that.
the whole
Because he's
cancellation
here,
of
like
everything
he's
like
in our
that.
subreddit. He was just in our subreddit. He's doing all this to sort of because he understands that there's a lot of anxiety. That's why he's doing it. You understand, right? He's trying, but he's doing it in a way where it's like, oh, we're just hanging out. We're just friends, because he doesn't want to like get himself in trouble. But he knows what he's doing. He's doing it on purpose, and that's his reason.
Yeah.
And I'm totally good with that, because it's clear that some people definitely could use that.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
like I think that's one reason why I like Pulte, and why I hope I get a chance to actually meet him and talk with him, because he just seems like a nice dude. Like, he just seems to be very empathetic and caring and understanding, and his actions back that up. So I mean, yeah, like, good dude. Feels like a good dude, and I can
Man.
see it in what he's doing. So I'm glad
Imagine
he's on
being
our
a
side.
journalist that is being told to write something bad about Bill Pulte.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh man.
But that's
well, they can write bad stuff about Jimmy Carter, and like, he's still building homes. They can write bad crap about anyone.
But that's
Yeah.
like
I mean,
the
they
sad
write
thing
bad
about
crap
society
about Ryan Cohen, believe it or not.
is
Go ahead,
that
Mike.
like people are paid to do things that they don't like, right? Like, I mean, just like to sell things they don't want to sell, right? Like, instead of us actually just having synergy and making society better, that we end up doing things like, writing articles, right? Or we're, those people writing just whatever someone else is paying us to do instead of what actually adds value. And I think
Exactly.
that this is like one step towards actually creating value in life, building value rather than just, I don't know, just what it is.
Creating value instead of extracting value. I
Yeah.
think that's the
Or
difference.
or also too,
Right, like what these hedge funds do.
I was just going to
Oh,
say
sorry,
that
go ahead.
rediscovering the value in things that are already that exist. The as a land surveyor, it was very difficult for me to justify. I'd been a land surveyor for a long time, and it was very hard for me sometimes to go out into this pristine. I mean, one of the last last surveys I was on before I quit that job, we were in a place, and you wouldn't even believe it. Like, you've got a pretty huge metro, just encompassing this very large plot of land that was just, it was gorgeous and practically untouched. And there was a few houses out there. There was one main residence, and I mean, it was breathtaking. I mean, there was a creek, and just, there was value in it because it was undisturbed. And yet the whole time I was out there, it really hurt me that that the value of this being undisturbed wasn't more valuable than the development project that was to come after the fact. And I think they ended up cramming like 128 units. I mean, you could literally sit there and ask your neighbor. You could be sitting on your toilet and ask your neighbor for toilet paper. I mean, seriously, it was that close. Like, they go in, they destroy this stuff. I mean, there were some pines. I think we were looking at, I think one of the largest pines was like a 36-inch. I mean, it was a specimen. It was literal, like, this is what a specimen sample. So anyhow, not to get into land surveying jargon, but the point is that we have we've affixed value with newness, and we've affixed progress with newness. And unless it's effectively new, it's not progressive. And my interpretation of it, I mean, if an entity or even just an individual, if we get to a point where you can't really sustain what you have indefinitely with the resources that are available to you, I'm not sure if you really should be concerning yourself with moving forward in any capacity. And that, to me, there's only so much land, there's only so much to utilize as far as commodity. And so it troubles me very much that a large proponent of progress and the progression of an entity is more of something, especially when it comes to finite resources, or resources that take time. It takes a long time for a 36-inch pine tree to exist. Even like a slash pine still takes 15, 20 years before you can use it really effectively to get anything from it. So that's something too that I would like us to, personally, to do more with less. And I try to maybe leave things alone for a little bit and kind of catch back up, let nature catch up, let things, they were hunting wolves. I think it was Yellowstone, but there was a very nice piece of land. They had hunted a very particular species of wolf almost to extinction or endangerment, and the entire landscape changed. Literally it changed the course of the river due to the influx of the effectively the food source for these wolves. And they realized that by reintroducing a population to these wolves to this location, they started to quell that population of grazing animals, and the landscape returned back to very close to what it was. So it just a bit more foresight when it comes to what we're doing, and I mean, certain, things have, intrinsic value because they're valuable. Like gold, is just valuable because it's gold. But at the end of the day, I would personally like to see a bit more forethought into what you're leaving behind, and that kind of echoes for me personally with what I think Ryan Cohen and people like him, that newer generation of activist investor. It's like, I'm going to do more with less. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need a bit of reform and changing the mindset of what it really means to be progressive. I don't know if I got way off there on a tangent, but
No,
Well, I mean,
no,
I
it
think
totally
one
makes
thing
sense.
that I do see is that there's like people who think about the momentary, right? They're just going to take whatever at whatever future cost, and the people that think beyond that, beyond the moment, like whether it's for religious reasons or just the fact that they have a very developed frontal lobe that they can see beyond the immediate convenience towards something that can last. They're going to build something that, plant a tree that they're going to be in. So I see that, there's like when I look around, I look for the people that are the builders, the people that are actually looking for the future, not that are looking for convenience in the moment. And that's led me to find people like Pulte and Ryan Cohen and Larry Chang. I mean, Larry Chang's been talking a lot about like how can a business be sustainable, right? Because these are all these things that, whether we're talking about nature and wolves and whatnot, it all has to be an ongoing discussion, because like how do you, like, we don't have any definitive answers on what things should be, right? And so that's one reason I see that Elon Musk, he wanted to create a town square. He sees the importance of that, right? That he's like, well, I'm gonna put it to a vote. Should I be the CEO of Twitter, right? I mean, that is important, because we're going to be trusting someone with satellites all around the world. So if there's
Mhm.
drones flying around, they would be flying around the whole world if they hijacked his thing. So his satellites. So the thing is we have to figure out how to have productive conversations, because otherwise, if we if we don't use that as a vehicle towards deciding what we do as a society, one person's gonna decide it for us, and that's gonna suck.
well, and what
So
It
exactly? I mean,
just
what do
seems
we
like
see?
that's
I
happening.
mean, I've been constantly being like, yeah, well, what are we going to do next after this? I mean, like, that's how you do it. You start having a conversation.
And
So, but I mean, I don't want to like insist upon myself on like doing that, but I'm just saying, like, I'm there.
yeah,
Like that's exactly where my mind is at, and I am. I'm sure not everyone's thought of it, but I really hope people start thinking about it really soon, because I think these spaces, like the Twitter Spaces, PP Show, you doing your thing here, Michael, I think these are good avenues because
Yeah.
it's like we can just do that here and like right now. Like, there's nothing really stopping us. I mean, maybe we can find better ways to do it, but this is a good place to start, right?
Well,
Yeah.
Because I mean, I want to know what you guys are up to, not just because like I'm curious, but because I want to understand the people who are in on this, where they're going to be, so I can utilize that in the future. For there's all sorts of things that I'm going to be doing, and I want to be able to connect with the right people. And even if you're not that right person, you might know some people who are,
Exactly.
and that's why, like, once this is gotten someplace, so when we have our money, and like, I want these spaces to continue. One of the things I've been meaning to ask PP on the show is like, once the stock is over, once it's done, the whole thing's over, like, what's next for the PP show? And I'm sure he's thought about this, right? There's no way he hasn't. And I can see you smiling over there, Michael. I think I think maybe you might have had some conversations, but I think that whatever else is next for the PP show, I think, talking about what people are up to, what they're doing, maybe using it as a way of like reaching out for like certain things that somebody might need. Like somebody might want to like build something and they need certain kinds of people. And it's like, oh, well, we have this show that we can like help each other connect for those different needs that we're going to have going forward. And I would personally really appreciate that. Like, that's something that I would invest heavily in personally, because I know how important that is, right? Just like you guys are saying right now. It's like, it's super, super important. And that's why, I think that's what, when people are saying, oh, community, build your community, right? I think that's what it's about, because you build your community with your own rules. And that way you can find people that you can trust and connect with to do the things that you want to do, because certainly not going to be able to do it alone. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, no, way better with more people, and I think that's a great point. It you want to like leave behind a legacy, so I think that's kind of why um, Bill Pulte is trying to take his company back, and because it's, I mean, it's kind of got his name on it. His family built it, and he hates the direction that it's going. So he's really trying to get Marshall out of there and
Mm-hmm.
save his legacy.
And I think that he's also trying to lead by example. He wants people to do what he's doing, right? And
Yeah.
like, he's showing you how to do it, right? Not just how he's carrying himself, but the specific things he's choosing to do. That's the other thing you have to think about, because he knows he has this platform doing philanthropy, giving people. But in the same platform, he's also saying, hey, these people are attacking me. Here's all this evidence showing it. We're trying to fight them. Like, he's doing that for everyone to see, right? And he wants more people to do that sort of thing. Like, it's made me think about, like, there's some companies in the gaming industry, which I'm personally involved in case you didn't know, that I know have boards and stuff that I could possibly get onto to kick off the bad actors that are ruining a lot of these companies. And because people just are just sick and tired of it. And I'm sick and tired of it. And now I'll have the, if not the power to do it myself, the power to, get other people to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because like, I'm going to have more money than I'm probably going to ever be able to spend. I'm going to have to find people to spend it for me. Like, I really am. That's really the case. And that's how that's how you build communities, build businesses, and that's how you do it, right? You find people and spend your money on them so they can do the things you can't, right? And and you're creating the value in the world through that particular set of actions. Yeah,
I just want to
that's how you do it.
I just want to touch upon what Mike was talking about earlier, and then what Tinfoil was talking about. I like, you could just see the corruption everywhere, and it's just unbelievable. I feel like we're just at a tipping point. Like, corruption is maximized, and this could just be me being foolish and thinking it's maximized. It could be at its very lowest point. It's just maximized to us. But I truly feel like, if you look, Yeah. But you look around the world and you just see like even Hawaii, even here, even there, like it's just get to the point where it's just like things don't things aren't adding up anymore. Because when I was a kid, yeah, of course we heard about these things, we saw these things, but not at this rate. It just seems like everything's at such an accelerated rate. And I
Yeah.
also want to say, like, if when this does happen, when this play does happen, there's just gonna be mass hysteria. Like we can't forget that. Like there's gonna be mass hysteria across the board. Like people are gonna just lose their minds. The people that are not in this play, we're not even thinking about them, like how their lives are gonna be affected and how much how wild it is gonna be out here because it's just gonna be like the media is just gonna pump out that news like, oh, this and that, blah blah blah. We all know what it doesn't matter. You just insert any words you want, but they're gonna always try to play us as the fall guy or this or that. But it's just you're gonna look at it and you're just gonna be like, wow, like we're living through what is gonna be I think the biggest bailout in world history. But at the same time, it's gonna take effect on people that are just living paycheck to paycheck. Because I'm driving around like not I'm driving around the city and I'm starting to see more houses saying for sale. And in the city I live in, it used to be like when there was a house for sale, the next day, oh pending, 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 pending. It wouldn't even be a week, not even 1 week before that house would already be pending or sold. And now I'm just like driving around. I'm just every other day I'm starting to see a new house for sale, a new house for sale. And a week or two will go by, and I'm starting to see more and more houses for sale, and the ones that were on sale still being on sale. So that's just like with all the bubbles happening everywhere, with the Debit Suisse, UBS, FTX. Remember Evergrande in China 2 years ago? Like all of these things are happening, and it's just like it's like we're ready. I'm ready to celebrate, but at the same time I understand that like we're about to face the biggest boss. Like when you're in a game, like we're about to face Shao Kahn right now. We're about to beat Shang Tsung, whoop his ass, and now we're about to face
Uh-oh.
Shao Kahn, some crazy shit that we didn't even think about you know and it's
Uh-oh.
just I just get I just go ahead, I don't want to cut anybody off.
Oh no,
I
I'm
just
just
I,
I'm just appreciating the
I,
Mortal Kombat reference there.
I
Keep
love the
I was
going,
movie.
just
dude.
thinking that
BBB
that's
BBBYQ, the chosen one.
I was just thinking
But
that's I think that's why Bill Pulte likes the PP show so much is because he doesn't really seem to trust the traditional media to tell people the truth about like what not only what is going on with Bed Bath and Beyond, but what's going on in the outside world. So
yeah,
um,
and to tie it with what Anastasia is saying, it's like when the mass hysteria hits the masses, because it's gonna hit. How can we use our platforms like that to kind of guide them in? Because I have my plan. Like, let's just say, this whole thing falls and the S&P falls and we do make some money. I think everybody knows where I'm going from here. But everybody has, it's just there's gonna be mass hysteria. That's just my whole feeling. From high school kids on to, let's say people in their 50s just not knowing what to do. And I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful there's people like Mike. I'm thankful there's people like PP. And I'm just thankful there's like, even with the other DK Sun Devil Rogue, like, when they have their spaces, and I'm just thankful that you brought that point up, Anastasia, that we can use these platforms to kind of guide these people instead of, because there's going to be a lot of people taking their, I don't want to say it, taking their lives or whatever, but when you're put in positions of you have no idea what you're going to do next, like, you know what I mean, everything is crumbling around you. Some people do take the easy road, and I don't know, I just feel like that's something that we should
Think of it this way. Think of it this way. The old structure is about to
it's al-
disintegrate
it's
entirely.
already it already
And
has.
no, no, let me finish.
Okay,
It's about to disintegrate entirely, and the people are being held up by that. It's going to be up to us to catch them because they're going to fall,
I agree.
and we're not going to be able to catch everybody,
Yep.
but we have to do our best to catch as many people as we can. And I think that if you're wondering like how are people going to know who to trust, I think people already will be able to tell, because people are much more likely to trust the person who is actually getting them food, making sure that they have jobs, and giving them a future than what some person on a screen says. You know,
Thing
I agree
that
with you.
that Pulte said is he says you guys are all leaders, and I think that what the conclusion I've come to is that we all have to be ready and willing to lead, but also ready and willing to follow, and hopefully be wise enough to know which time is which. And I
I
think
think that is so important, man. That's really hard to master. That's actually something I want to help teach people, is how to know, when should I listen and when should I talk, right?
yeah.
Because it's not easy.
I'd be your first student.
I'm happy to teach you,
Well, I think
because
it's a
I think.
I think it's a
Sorry, go
discussion
ahead.
though. Like we all kind of this Socratic method, and we kind of figure things out as we interact. But I think that we've been isolated for too long to where it just we have so much pent up that like it all just kind of comes out, and it's like that really how the Socratic method is someone defines something, someone pokes holes in that argument, and then they redefine it. It's just kind of like an orderly thing
Yeah.
in order
Yep.
to get to truth. But yet everyone kind of brings in the emotionally charged things. And they found ways to just stop discussion because it's not about getting towards truth. It's all about just getting the spin and
Yep.
and getting the
Mhm.
people
Or
to
just
do what you want.
gaslighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a matter of gaslighting. It's like, is somebody, like, you can tell when someone is trying to be intellectually honest by adding some critique, whether they're just trying to like be argumentative, right? You have to be very close. Excuse me. You have to pay very close attention to the things that people choose to say and how it affects other people, right? And you can tell, like, when people are making like weird arguments or bringing up things that seem like irrelevant, or they're not necessarily supporting their argument with like um, things that are related to the situation, or they constantly are just
Insulting.
like, or yeah,
Personal
or like just
attacks.
being
Yeah.
derogatory, or trying to lead the question, because sometimes it's easy to frame a question. It's like, uh, when Bill O'Reilly started to make it popular, it's like when he's like, any criticism towards what the government's doing, he's like, what, do you hate America? Right? Like shit like that, right? That shit is unbelievable. And even though I was like a young teenager when he started doing that, I could tell that shit was awful, right? And you have to pay very close attention to the people that do that kind of stuff, because it's hard to see, and
Mhm.
especially if you're
Whatever it
not
is.
like thinking about it. But that's what I want to see people start thinking about that more, because I think I've been able to suss out who are the good actors and who are the bad actors up until this point. I think that's the only reason I get to sit here with you guys in the first place.
I think
um,
yes.
uh,
I think that's why a
and,
lot of us are here.
yeah, and I think that we're going to need to teach other people how to do that as well.
And learn ourselves, right? I
Yes.
mean, I think that
Exactly.
we're not ever going to be in the role always as a teacher or a student. I think that I have this idea that we graduate from things, right? Like we so quickly you get crapped on when you're a student. We were in public schools. I mean, I ended up teaching high school and junior high this last year, and you know, literally other teachers, administrators, they call them kiddos, which is super disrespectful in my opinion. And they just they wouldn't let him go to the bathroom. Like we had 90-minute classes, and they're like, okay, you can go to the bathroom 3 times per semester. And it was like, no, that's BS. They can go to the bathroom whenever the crap they want, and you can try and stop me.
Uh,
And like, so we're used to like being that someone's in power and they completely control us, and we're just so excited to get out of that position into the power where we're in complete control. But I think that like really that we both can answer questions when offer answers when we can, and ask questions when we can. We're never like a teacher. We're not identifying as a teacher or identifying as a student, like that hopefully we just get closer to truth and closer to love with every step. And
Yeah.
and we will never know where the answers are going to come from. It could come from some random conversation with someone, or self-reflection. But I just think that as I don't know, I just don't know that any of us have all the answers, and that it's just
Yeah.
the more we worry about
Even when
ourselves,
you're
the better.
Yeah, even in that position of being a teacher, it's you should always be looking for that next step in self improvement, because then you'll just be a better teacher if you can improve yourself. And yeah, you don't always have to be a teacher. You can always be a student as well. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with trying to learn from others, but it shouldn't it shouldn't stop you from self improvement. And
Mhm.
uh,
And it
Like,
there was
shouldn't stop you from acknowledging your mistakes and being able to
right.
recognize that. I can give you a really good example actually that's quite pertinent to the situation. I'm and I still feel this to a certain degree. I was pretty confident that Elon was not on like the right side of things. All right, like the things that he was doing and the things that he was saying certainly indicated to me that he's not on the right end of things. But I kept seeing that there were these like weird little hints, little whispers that he's connected to all this over the course of this entire thing. And I saw those things and I was like, maybe I could be wrong about that. Maybe he's like playing the imposter, right? Because we've seen the photos of him hanging out with like Ken Griffin and Bezos
Yeah.
and stuff doing his thing. Everybody's seen that, right? And it's
Yeah.
totally plausible as far as the strategy goes to be like, he's basically playing both sides sort of situation, or he's being a double agent kind of situation. Like that's a completely actual thing that can happen. And so even though I still held that opinion, I always left room for the possibility that, hey, maybe I have it wrong. And it's certainly starting to look like that, hey, I was wrong. And I think that's the critical thing. It's like no matter how right you think you are about something, you always have to leave room for the possibility that you could be wrong, right? I think that's the thing that people have always got to remember. And it's hard to remember, especially when you need so much certainty, not just for yourself to lead your own life, but to like lead others, because people are definitely going to be looking up to us here, like for sure, 100%.
And the kicker also is that we're going to be coming into something we've never had, which is enormous amount of wealth. How are we going to react? Like it's all easy to say, oh, we're going to do this, that, and the third. But when I see that money hit my account, I don't know how I'm gonna react. I might be just like, yo, fuck this, dude. Let me go and just do whatever the fuck I want. Excuse my language, but
Absolutely,
like
100%.
that's like, you know what I mean? Like, so that goes back to Michael's point. Like, we're always learning. I'm gonna learn how the hell I really am. I can say all of this stuff until when that money when the funds hit the account. I have no idea how if I'm gonna while out, just do a bunch of random stuff, or what type of person I'm gonna be. But I have the morals and values that I have, and I hope deep inside that whenever the first phase of the euphoria or the dopamine kind of wears off from all the money, it's just like, all right, let me get back on track. But you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true,
Well, and that
very true.
thanks,
I, I,
Tremendo, by the way.
the very crux of the matter, and so many of the points that you've made, Anasthera, my personal philosophy on that is that the vast majority of those things starts with a personal understanding of humility. And for me, the those that are not familiar with that concept, it takes very special people to just kind of have this understanding of what it means to be humble. And it really does, it takes a humble person. I'm still learning. And it takes a very particular frame of mind to know exactly that, to know when to step back, when to like what we've been saying, when to lead or follow. And we have a lot of people that are, I believe, doing it the right way, leading by example. I do believe you're absolutely right as well, Anna Sarah, that it requires action, boots on the ground. We can think and philosophize all we want, but until we're out there doing, it's really going to be very hard to lead without setting an example of the things that we wish to see. That would be the change you want to see in the world, and that's an action thing.
Perfect. Absolutely, 100%.
I mean, personally for me, I don't I I I want to believe that I have been through enough my personal experiences, just to kind of go back. just a few years ago, I inherited quite a bit of acreage, and I got dollar signs in my eyes. I sold 20 acres of land, and I'm kicking myself for it every day. I had at one point like literally like about $23,000 cash in my hands. I've got really nothing to show for it at this point, 4 or 5 years later. I didn't invest it well at all. I blew it on stupid crap, and it's all gone. I mean, it literally, I blew it. And I think I may have went through that experience. God's kind of funny. It's like, I'm gonna let you burn your hand as many times as it takes. You're gonna get it sooner or later. You'll get it, and then when the real test comes, I think we're all prepared um, to take the time. I think, and if you caught that one, several weeks ago when I was on the PP show and was thoroughly blessed by the chat, that
Yep.
was the message I was trying to disseminate to you, is that we are humans. At the end of the day, we have our list of wants and our list of needs, and it is certainly my wish that we focus on that list of needs, because once you have to put your oxygen mask on first, right? We get that
Oh, yeah.
analogy, planes going down. You got to throw your oxygen mask on first. Or if you're a diver, I've had a lot of friends that were divers. Somebody's air runs out. You never take the rest. You never hand it off. Don't hand it off. They're the ones freaking out. You take a little bit. You give them a little bit. You hang on to it. Take a little bit. You give them, and that mentality is kind of what I hope to have moving forward. And I stress, anybody that has any kind of debt whatsoever, pay that first. Just break even, get down to that baseline, that zero. And then no matter what you do, you're never going to fall into that same mentality that you're in a trap. But yes, I personally believe that it begins with humility, a personal understanding of that. And it's, I think, a little bit different for us all. We know our strengths, and we do know our weaknesses and our shortcomings. And personally, I've been trying to work on, well, better communication skills, allowing others to express themselves in settings like this. I felt pretty bad recently. I was on a Spaces call, and I'm still in timeout because, well, I kind of went on a rant, and I feel pretty bad about it.
Well, I don't think you should
Okay.
necessarily feel bad about it, right? Because what use is feeling bad about it, right? What does that? How does that serve you, right? If
Well,
you make a mistake, you can just acknowledge that you make a mistake and learn from it and move on, right?
that's more to the point. You're absolutely correct in that.
Yeah.
I
I'm not
think
saying you're wrong to feel a certain way. By the way, like
no, no, no,
you
no,
can feel
no.
however you want.
No, I
But
totally understand what you meant.
yeah,
But yeah, and that's the thing too. One of the hallmarks that I have found in this community is that we all have similar social and communication, and there's just an understanding that I think is based in compassion. And I think that compassion, I mean, it takes a compassionate person to feel an emotional response to the things like Bill Pulte does. It takes a compassionate person to be maybe not enraged, but to be negatively affected by injustice and to see corruption at all. I think that comes from a compassionate place in the individual.
And
And
for
it's
him
I
to give his time and his energy to the PP show, and uh, he doesn't have to do any of that. He could just be sitting at home, like with hookers or whatever the heck.
what I mean,
He
you're
could
not
just,
wrong. I mean,
he could. I mean, the guy's got crazy money. He could do whatever the hell he wants, really. But no, he's taking his time, and even his reputation he's putting on the line for the PP show, for all of us, really. And it does really take a compassionate person to do that.
yep.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm going to do my best to be worthy of that the gift, I guess you could call it. Because I don't know. I feel like at this point, with all the complaining I've done over the past couple of years, how everyone's stupid and doing all the wrong things, I'd be a pretty big hypocrite if I didn't. So I'm gonna avoid being a hypocrite, or I'm gonna do my best at least.
Yeah,
Well,
we can always just try at least.
and that certainly is something myself. I'm concerned about that. It's very difficult when we're in a situation that through social media and legacy media and that narrative that I speak of often, it's difficult to avoid character assassination. We see it all the time now. It's starting to involve the justice system, where people are under constant attack. Their characters are being invalidated. In what I observed, my opinion, that they're not fitting that narrative. They're not in line with that agenda. That and just to speak on the agenda, what I mean is this overarching globalism, that where the very powerful are in retention of that power, and we're merely the batteries to power the machine. And I think, Anna Sarah, you've asked some things that I've thought of to answer your question. Some of the things that I have thought of is making homeschooling, making private schooling institutions more affordable for families, that tuitions, vouchers, scholarships,
Hmm.
that would allow a higher form of education that's not dependent on tax dollars. All of my younger brothers and sisters were homeschooled, and like they're just very intelligent people. Like, I mean, I've got a kid brother, and it's amazing the curriculum that's available to the people willing to teach it. And it's difficult to provide something when there is something central. I mean, we talk about centralization often, and I mean that's when too much power is concentrated and in the hands of a very small select group of people that are usually not elected, that are only there because of the power they've already had.
Hmm.
It does lend itself to an easier push for their wants, and not the things that are going to enhance
Right.
society.
Well, if that's your goal, I have actually some extensive knowledge and connections as far as resources that you would probably want to look into. One of the things you should definitely look into some sociology books, specifically focusing on like how countries are organized and how information is disseminated. I think some additional things that might be worth thinking about and seeing if you can find some people to educate yourself with would be um, thinking about how are we going to reorganize public education and like educating people in general, right? Like in this new technology, how is this going to affect it? Like how does the old public school system has a lot of flaws, and part of its flaws is that the school system is designed to get most people just educated enough to be factory workers, but our economy just doesn't really work that way anymore, right?
I think
Largely due to automation and things like that. So one
I
question that a lot of people need to think about, and people are already thinking about it, and there's people you can look to. It's like, okay, what should schooling look like, right? Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
yeah, I think that instead of testing for IQ or testing for how much value someone's going to add, right? They test for like a conformity quotient, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
actually have, had teachers say like I don't want, I was teaching biology. They're like I don't want people putting answers on the test that they can look up on the internet, and I'm like, yeah, it's like science. So science is supposed to be like as close to objective as possible,
Yeah.
but they just wanted that they wanted to know that the person was going to listen to them and not look for any other source. And, one of the teachers was like straight up like, I hate children. Like, I hate my own children. I definitely hate my students. And I'm like,
What are
why did you
you?
pick this job? Like, I mean, I'm here randomly, but like you actually like went through school, you did student teaching, and then you still are like doing this.
Uh,
And like it just like everything about it, like their whole philosophy of school was just wrong. Like I ended up teaching after I taught mostly freshmen, but then some like juniors and seniors for one semester, and then the second semester I taught um, for about a month. I taught seventh graders, and I was like, look, there's a thing called a social contract. I really believe in it. And you have to figure out what I want, and I'm going to figure out what you want, and we're going to see how well we can match those things up. And I was like, I don't want to get in trouble, and I want you guys to get your work done. All right. Like, and there's things I can negotiate and things I can't, And I was like, look, if there's no trash on the ground when you leave, and, you guys can use your phones, listen to music, I don't care. You can sit wherever you want. And but I was like, I'm not gonna have any mercy, like as far as like if you do bad on the test or whatever. And it was crazy that like everyone, like first off, like it was in a science one, so like just like most of the kids went out into the tables with their friends, and like the relief that everyone saying like that didn't move was just like, oh, finally, like I don't have these annoying people next to me. I watched them just put in their earbuds and then just literally start doing work. Like
Yeah.
almost every single student, and I had classes all day. I had like seven different periods or whatever of students, or six. They all just like almost every kid would just work the entire time. Most of them would finish their stuff early, and they're like, "What do you want me to do?" I was like, "No, whatever you want. I mean, that's what you were supposed to do. Your teacher told me, these different things." And so I just like literally, I was like, "I'm going to talk for the first 2 minutes. I'm going to tell you guys what you're going to do, and then you can do it however you want. And if you have questions, come and ask." And so then I just sit back, and then a few kids would come by and just like talk to me, and about life, about whatever. And it was like crazy that like everyone was more productive and less stressed out, because you can't like learn when you're stressed out. And it was weird that most teachers have this like weird, like there's a book called God of the Classroom, and it used to be like a required reading for teachers. And it was that you are the god of the classroom, and you have to be in control of everything that happens. And it's basically enabling this like really toxic authoritarian sort of view. And the only reason it's not required reading, but it was required reading as of like less than 10 years ago. So they just got a different version of it that now they use. But like I saw teachers do that, and I'm like, one, like no one can focus that much. And I would watch the kids, and they all had different kind of learning styles. Like some of them, they just wanted to motor through it, just get it done and be done with it. Other of them would like, they needed little breaks in between, and they like, as a whole, the group was like, hey, if we all work together, we could do this faster. It was just like fascinating to see how everyone had a different way of doing it, but almost every single kid just like boom would just get it done. And I had better test scores than all the other teachers and whatnot, and I didn't even teach. I literally just let them teach
It's
themselves.
surprising
Like,
it's surprising what people do when you start to treat them like people.
yeah,
I mean,
That's really all most kids need, is just parents and adults are there as like a guiding hand to like, okay, you don't know about these particular dangers or bad areas. We're just going to be like, hey, there's a thing here. And I always remember growing up, and like I was really good at following directions when I understood why the direction was the way that it was, right? I mean, I'm not the kind of person that like just that I will agree with something or like something simply because I told it has to be that way. And I understand that sometimes you have to put up with that because it's like people don't want to be asked questions all day fucking long. But still, like I'm so bothered that because learning is an interactive experience, right? It's like you have to get kids to actually be invested and involved in doing it yourself. You can't make someone really do something, especially when it's like learning, right? You have to have them get themselves involved, and you have to create an environment where they want to do that, right? And sounds like Michael knows exactly how to do that, right? And
I
that's
mean,
why it works so well.
actually, you said the word involved. I have in my personality theory, there's 7 different dichotomies, and one is involved or interactive, and the other is speculative. So I
Mm.
actually wouldn't say that in order to learn, you have to be involved. And that's actually the thing is like for me, I'm more actually on the speculative side. So I don't want to be involved. I don't want to do it hands on. It doesn't add any
Oh
value to
no,
me
I
to.
meant you want the kids to be like engaged and invested. That's what I meant to say.
But
Not
no, but that's the thing is like I
yeah.
think a lot of teachers they like I had a friend and he wasn't doing that good in school when we were in college, and I'm like, look, just I was like, he's like, oh my, it turns out my D in geometry doesn't count anymore for college, and I'm like, bro, that never counted. And he's like, oh, I just finally took algebra 2 and now I have to go back and take a geometry. He's like, no. I was like, this is what you do. You go into trigonometry, you sit in the front row, you stare into the teacher's eyes, you turn your homework in first, and with little hearts on it. And I was like, and when it gets to the deadline day, like where they're gonna have to drop you, they're not gonna drop you. I guarantee it. Well, he goes there. He does that one. I also was like, and I was like, don't worry. I was like, I got a B in trigonometry. It was real, like a B minus. It was really hard. So, don't worry if you don't get an A. Of course, he gets like 100%. And the teacher was like, you know what? You're supposed to take pre-calc, but I'm actually teaching calculus if you want to just skip that and come to calculus. So, like, that's the thing was like, it's I don't know. I mean, one, I mean, I brought that up one to show that most teachers just want you to look engaged, whether you're actually engaged or not, which I think that does harm because people get really like the main trap of life is proving instead of doing. Like that our heart and our mind are designed to do meaningful things in a logical way, but when we get caught up in proving things, like I'm going to prove to the teacher that their time is valuable by like looking like I'm engaged with them, yes, the
Mm.
teachers eat that up. And if you want to do good in school, yes, you should probably learn how to do that. But as far as actually just living a meaningful life, we have to. Well, I mean, I found that if the more the more careful I am about like not just proving to prove something, just actually following my heart and using my mind, that I like the results a lot better.
What do you think is going to happen in the political system with like going back to what you were talking about? I'm just going to try to link this to the teachers, like how you were saying that the teachers feel like they always have to be in control, and I'm going to tie this to finance too. It's like you always hear like the smart money always telling us we don't know what to do, or the politicians getting all this information and then them trading stocks and you know what I mean? They never listen to anybody in their own states or anything. They just kind of say, "Oh, this is what the state needs." You know what I mean? This is what you guys need because this is what's best for me, but this is what you guys need. You guys don't realize it yet, but you guys need this. Like,
I mean,
how do you think
there's
that's gonna? Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
oh, I mean, in any like when you're trying to force anyone to do anything, you want like asymmetry, right? So either that has to be knowledge or physical power or emotional power, right? You want that asymmetrical advantage. And so when you look at someone trying to get that asymmetrical advantage, that should put off some alarm bells like, oh, this person is not going about this the right way, right? And so as far as there's one thing, it's like I almost don't want to bring it up because typically there's always two sides and two powers in society. Ever since the beginning of time, there's been open society and closed society, and those powers kind of just swap positions. Whereas I feel like we should get the middle ground and balance the two, but and so in like the the closed society, it's saying that everyone there should be low tolerance for any difference of opinion, right? That's like alignment is the most important and it's results oriented, right? So it's like, our tribe's doing this. If you're not getting results, you're out, right? And the problem is that marginalizes a lot of people, but it actually gets results done. And then it creates this power vacuum for all the people that are the outcasts, right? And so then there's like the state idea, where you have a state that like holds together all the people who don't really fit well. And so it's like like efficiency versus numbers. And so you have a big state versus a small tribe, and they're essentially equal. And so you can kind of see the different people going towards each one, and it's like, so I don't know. I mean, for a while we've been on the whole country has been on a state kind of thing, where it's like we want people to be. So it's like the money is in being a middleman, and so the government is forcing itself to be the middleman, because it's like, oh, all these different groups are so different. We need the government to pull them together, right? And so they want, I don't even want to say the word diversity, but like they want a reason to for us to need the government.
Yeah,
And
Well,
so
I mean,
yeah,
I do agree with that.
They want to break us down so they could tell us how to rebuild it, and then so
Well,
we can
there's
and
pay them how to
they want
rebuild
us to
it
rely on them as well.
Yeah,
Right.
100%. Because if you rely on somebody, you're gonna be forced to bend to their will. Because if you're so
Yeah,
reliant, then it's a hamster wheel.
yeah,
Well, the thing
but
is that it's usually a back and forth on it, because I mean you still need to have an agreed set of rules upon which to work, right? And regulations and other things like that are important, right? Like I think, well, no one here is going to disagree that we need a better way of regulating our markets, right? Because like
Mhm.
otherwise, like most people would agree with that sort of statement, right? So it's never like a one or the other kind of thing. It's a mix of both, and there has to be a little bit of like give and take, ebb and flow, kind
yeah.
of way of approaching it.
And
So
that's
the
why I
idea,
bring it up, is because we should be able to maximize the benefit of both, right? How can
yeah,
we marginalize the least amount of people while actually still getting good results? That's would be the goal of a society, of a government. But most people want only one or the other, and if you look, you can kind of see which the two main giants fighting are that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing that
Mhm.
people have to learn to let go of is this idea of a like a perfect answer or a final answer or like a happily ever after or something along those lines. Because I think everybody, the one thing I see everybody doing is that this is the way that it needs to be, this way and not any other way, and that's the correct answer. And that leaves no room for discussion or nuance or things to change, right? And you always have to leave room for change, because I mean things will change whether you want it to or not, right? I mean that's what these guys who are fighting don't understand, is that things have to change no matter what, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it. So whatever systems you create, whatever kind of world you build, you have to build it in a way that it allows for change one way or another. And I think one of the biggest reasons why civilizations continue to fail in all these ways is because people have yet to fully accept that answer as like a something that you have to live with, right? And I think as we get closer to that being, something that we can't ignore, right? Because I mean, everybody has the experience of wanting something to never change, to always be reliable, to always be like, okay, I can count on this, right? And there are some things that for us, like we can pretty much count on the sun's not going anywhere for the time being, right? Like we can count on that, right? But it's like where exactly the line is difficult to say, and it changes all the time, right? Because things keep changing. So I think that's the one thing I would like everyone to really keep in mind as we try to build things,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, also just as a reminder, I prefer like what I like. I think like when we want other people to do things, that's outside of our control,
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
like, we usually like to see other people changing before we're willing to change, and
Mhm.
so I mean, just kind of that perspective to me is pretty valuable.
Well,
Yeah.
I
and
agree. I agree with that. Yes.
that a lot of that, and a lot of things that I've been learning recently. There's a difference between there's a how can I word this in in debate or just conversation in the meeting of the minds when it comes to affecting change. There's understanding, and there's the need to understand the other and the desire to be understood. And oftentimes I find myself struggling with that. I find a deficit of my willingness to try and understand the other. And so, there's there it man, we're unpacking a lot of this is really nice, because I do lack a diversity when it comes to philosophical conversations like these, and beyond that, there's a lot of there's it, man, I'm sorry, my head's kind of spinning a little bit, because it, it's it,
It's all good,
well,
bro.
it's just so there we all have an aptitude, and it's very different. It's the hallmark of individuality that we're not the same, and we have a different experience in life, and that teaches us very different things. We can come together to understand, fundamentals and basics, uh, food, shelter, security being the primary of those things. And when it comes to conformity, to me it does seem like, I'm very easily labeled divergent, because I've never really been a conformist, in the sense of, you go to, I mean, I dropped out at 16 because I just didn't jive with the high school mentality in the late 90s, and all intents and purposes the curriculum wasn't really, I mean, I got a GED like 2 years before, I was trained to pass a standardized test. You could put any standardized test in front of me, man, on subject matter I've never seen, and I'll pass it, because I know how to pass those tests. But the I think we have an aptitude. Some people like to read and hold information. Some people like to build and use their hands. Some people like to build and use their hands with wood and bricks. Some people like metal. Like, they're just, we have our own desires. Something that I've noticed, especially when crypto became started to become much more prevalent, uh, I noticed a disparate um, spread between those that were just a little older than me and those just a little younger, and I was kind of in the middle there. I understood the 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 really neat aspects of it, and I could kind of wrap my head around the technology responsible for it. But I mean, some of the older folks that I was around are just like, no, like, nope, I am this skill set. This is what I've known, and I can't really cram any more information in there. I'm done. I've been a diesel mechanic for 30 years. This is what I know. And when our security starts to be jeopardized with, I mean, I could think of a lot of people that are feeling insecure when it comes to automation, when it comes to artificial intelligence, when it comes to modernization
Yep.
of certain things, and I could feel that insecurity. I myself have find that I'm kind of at a deficit of diverse skill sets to be in the workforce. I never really learned, believe it or not, much about like Microsoft Office and emails and communicating on that level. It's very difficult for me to do. So, just to kind of put my 2 cents in, I think that
Understand.
the the ramifications of insecurity are vast in today's day and age, because there's a legacy workforce that has a very, very tight skill set, and they didn't pass the torch completely. And then there's, folks like myself where, I was a little too early and a little too late at the same time to really find myself of much value these days. And as far as working, like I see a lot of my peers. So I think with basic needs met and coming together in a way that food, shelter, security, those things being addressed primarily. We can look back in history and see that when the nomadic tribal mentality slowly waned and the more agricultural societies came into play, we had an influx of thought and innovation, and things got easier, and technology started to prevail. And I mean technology like a friggin' wheelbarrow, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. I think if we get back to this in a very modern sense, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, I want everything done by, AI robots. I don't know if that would really usher in a renaissance, but I do think a renaissance is approaching.
Sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. I just
No.
I don't know. I don't know if it's real tinfoil or whatnot, but the person that typically drops tinfoil
Let's do this.
dropped this in the chat. So
So
Morse
I
code?
already went and decoded it. So it's obviously Morse code, but it's double Morse code. So you have to put it through the translator twice, and what you get is you get the word 4 and the numbers 4125. So I decided to try to throw some of this stuff together. What I found is that when I put in Japan 4125, it linked me to this company, Sanwayuka Industry Corp, which I guess it's a chemicals company in Japan. I'm not sure if this is like the right answer. But this is just what I'm currently searching for, because I'm not entirely sure how to work out this particular riddle. But I don't know what to do with the word 4, and I don't know how. I looked up 4125 in London and together, and I didn't really get anything. So that's basically where I'm at.
I was thinking it was like, I guess it could be Morse code, but I was like thinking that it seemed like
147.
some kind of like a I don't know, building, or I don't know, that's something like some kind of shape.
Really?
Some kind of interesting.
Or one
But
two
I don't
five
know.
could just easily be 147. Just 1 4, then 2 5 is 7. I mean, that's just a simple. I'm not saying it's right or anything. But I'm trying to look at the
Okay,
code.
I mean, yeah, that's fine. I mean, as we are all perfectly well aware of, if this is actually who we think it is or whatever, usually these things have more than one meaning attached. So, like, if you have an idea or thought, I don't think that you should hesitate to share, even if it's simple. You know what I'm saying?
Michael, what did you see? You thought it was an image?
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering if it was like a building skyline, or like there was some kind of. I have no idea. I guess I could turn it on its side or whatever. I don't.
It kind of looks like a pirate ship.
I just saw Primal turn his phone
Yeah, I
and
did.
change the orientation.
Yeah, I'm learning, bro.
I love it. I love it.
Hey, I can switch it for you.
No, you're good. I already saw it. I just kind of was, why not? I like to think on my feet. I feel like that's my best instincts come out if I'm thinking on my
No,
feet.
that's great. I just thought it was funny because I saw what you were doing, and it was just funny. Because it immediately oriented back the way that you didn't want it
Yeah.
to.
I just wonder if like there's some kind of.
Uh,
What caused you to arrive at London and Japan? What was the clue or why did you
No,
pick those two
he
places?
wrote it
Oh,
in the
that
chat.
yeah,
It just
he
said,
just
that's the whole message, London, Japan. Okay.
yeah, and then the Morse code of it, yeah.
So I don't know
Kind of
whether
looks
there's
like the
something.
Twin Towers on 9/11.
Interesting.
You just know that there are people who are dedicated to making this stuff for us to figure out, right?
Honestly,
Right. Somebody is taking their time to like work this out into a whole riddle, and
Dude,
maybe it's just some random dude fucking with us, but like I don't know, man. Some of the stuff that's been said and like clued in this way has been like actually good. So I don't know.
I mean, two people came into my stream earlier, and I'm like, and it kind of reminded me when that happened, like when we went to the Icon Tower, like when we were walking, there was someone by the window just like looking at us. They were like, I don't know how many floors up, 6, 7 floors up or whatever. And
Wait, is that what that meme was about? I saw some meme on Reddit where it's just like he's always watching, and then it's just like this Photoshop picture of Ryan's like
Yeah.
googly eye face,
Is
and
that-
really, I'm like, what the fuck is that about? Is that what that was about?
is this the real whoop ass in the chat?
What?
Oh, really? Yo, what up, dude?
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
message you.
cool.
Sweet.
So it's really funny. I actually have a soft spot for Morse code, and I try to incorporate that whenever I do. Just I don't know. That's funny that it's in Morse code because I literally just a friend of mine wanted a quick theme song for a thing he was trying to do, and it was like a newscast intro, and that you always hear, and
Oh
and
yeah,
I did it, man. I did it for real. He was like, "Hey, is that Morse code?" I'm like, "It sure is." So that I don't know. I mean that's
Who put this out?
I'm wondering too if I mean if we go so far, you said 4125 would be. I mean that's I'm trying to off the top of my head. What's that? A B C D. That's EABF. If we were to use 441, just a quick Caesar cipher on the 4125.
Oh yeah. I see what you're saying.
EABF. And if I were to go
I gotta
over
write
here,
it down.
because I have a multitude of musical instruments by me, I'm just wondering. Like I try to pick things apart the best I can. Let me sit here. Hang on, let me put the phone down for a second and just whittle this really quick, just to see if I can. Just because I'm a nerd.
Does anybody know like who's the
Whoa, wait. Hold on a second. I just had a thought. Are those? Could that be what? Could EABF be like notes, like musical notes?
That's where I'm going.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to
Makes
hear
sense.
this. I want to hear this. I like this. We might be actually getting somewhere, boys and girls. we're flying now.
with it?
Strap your tinfoil in real tight, boys. We're going places.
That would be
I'm
wild.
with it. Who put this out? Like, who was the origin? Where did this originate from?
Well, it's just in the private chat.
Oh.
They typically say RC is the person. I know it's not the actual RC, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's.
I mean, they clued us into Bermuda again. I mean, and I don't know.
Bermuda Triangle.
Well, I mean, the Bermuda Triangle is near Bermuda, yeah.
And I'm just throwing stuff on the board.
Oh, speaking of which, that's why I hung this picture behind me in Carl Icahn fashion.
Yeah.
Crappily
Yeah.
it to my blog.
I mean, that's where the aliens are, supposedly, right?
Supposedly.
So,
I think
yeah,
they're in the water. But,
well, yeah,
everybody wants to
that's
say
yeah.
they're in space.
I mean, maybe they really are. I don't know.
Maybe they are. Maybe that's where Elon's going to take us one day.
Down
Maybe
Atlantis is real.
Oh, speaking of
Yeah, right.
tinfoil, actually,
That's the ultimate reveal is the location of Atlantis, right?
speaking of some weird tinfoil, so um, I was looking up um, when I was looking up about satellites and then the Bahamas. Like I found that the company in the Bahamas is actually called BTC, and it's owned by the Bahamian government. And so I was just like, huh. I mean, like that seems like kind of interesting that it goes through the Bahamas
Yeah.
and it wasn't a recent change that they changed the name. It was actually 19 or when was it? 19 anyway. It was before Bitcoin came out, but I don't know. It definitely tripped me out though. Not gonna lie. No
Do you
idea
think
what
the
it means.
Bitcoin name came from that?
Or Bitcoin came from it. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
I believe
like.
it.
Yeah. Did you figure it out, tinfoil guru?
Well, it didn't. I was kind of hoping it would sound something familiar. I mean, it's not a very pleasant chord progression.
Yeah.
Sorry if I get very dark. I'm walking out to my garage.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's kind of where I go with things. Like I remember one of the, I just what was it? Oh, forever ago. Oh gosh, what was it? With the moth, not the moth, but um, the cicada thing. You remember that?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah, the
yeah, I know what you're
Facebook
talking about.
and the
Yeah, the
treasure hunt.
like internet mystery thing. Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was layer and layer, and it just oh, I might have lost you. Am I still
No, you're
here?
back. Yeah.
I'm probably on 5G now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, like I mean, you had this, a small group of folks that had that knowledge base. So, there's so many layers to this. Also, I think of it from the standpoint like earlier today, even I fell down some rabbit holes. I was thinking about Amazon, and I was thinking about their the antitrust and everything going on, and that some of the things in the antitrust that were
Mhm.
mentioned were, the uh, the size and scope of everything. How you've got this super web model that's producing their own products, that has access to the information of their customers, that has their own distribution chain, etc. And then I recall, I think it was a Spaces. It may have been a Spaces I was listening to, or something that Jake was going on, Jake TB on the PP show. But when I started to think about all of these entities, yeah, I think it was Jake, and that we were talking about what was it, Pitney Bowes and their trucking, and the what is it, the PCG or whatever, with the utilization of Spaces. And so I'm wondering myself recently too, if part of the reason for all of this diversity that we're seeing out of Butterfly, out of this whole thing, what if part of that is to avoid having that kind of monopolization? Like these people had the foresight, the team that's assembled all of this. What if part of what they've thought of too is like, well, we can't have control of everything, so let's pull in these separate companies. I remember a while back, Kais was talking about Writer, and so perhaps there was some foresight there, with to truly be an Amazon competitor. One would have someone like myself would be like, all right, well, we're going to do things much like the way they did. But from a legal standpoint, it would make sense that they're like, well, wait, hang on, they're probably too big for their britches. Let's have a separate distributor. Let's have a separate logistics entity. and to kind of avoid any of that antitrust stuff. I don't know. It's just I'm spitballing here. Sorry about my messy garage. You're probably seeing
I mean,
things.
like Amazon, you're good.
Yeah, don't worry, man. No one cares how messy your garage is.
I don't see a thing actually.
Trust me,
The screen
nobody
seems
cares.
black for me.
Like Amazon's been vertically
Yeah,
integrated for
okay.
a while now. It's not like it's not like it's a new thing. I just feel like there's something bigger behind the scenes. Like for them to for all this stuff to happen now, it doesn't make sense because they've been vertically integrated for years now and nobody had any issue with it. All
That's
they
a
kept
good
doing was
point.
applauding Amazon. But all of a sudden, like, all of a sudden, like something it's something. Of course it's the tinfoil, right? Like we're trying to piece it together, but there's just something so much bigger behind the scenes for, just the Elon be mentioned with this play, all these things happening with Amazon, the space race, you know, it's just I I I truly believe it's just the we're going into the first quarter of Y2K and here we go. There's going to be another it's going to be another step in towards, whatever you the this another I do. This is I it's another step in the matrix. I truly do.
I
Like
mean,
if
oh, sorry. I mean, I think like to speaking of Amazon and antitrust, what it makes me think is that like I didn't know this because I hadn't really watched Twitch before, but they used to take 50% of all the tips, and they only
Oh
changed
yeah, yeah.
because their competition was Kick, or yeah, it was like, oh, we'll only take, was it a third, or a lot of people moved over to YouTube because they only take a third, but a third is still so much. It's like literally all you have to do is transfer money, and you take a third.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Right.
Like, and so it's like, I don't know. I mean, like I watched Elon Musk, gaming, and I was like, man, that's going to be so cool when it's like that, someone can tip and it won't really charge that much, 3% or whatever. I mean, even heck,
So
even
huge.
10% would be
a
apparently
lot
way
lower.
better
Yeah.
than
So competitive.
all the
I'm
competition.
looking forward to GameStop's Player. Like I
Yeah.
think that's probably where I mean that I believe that's where people are probably going to go to when it comes to this whole Web3 thing. And I wonder if whatever Elon's doing, how that's going to like fit in with that, right? Because if they're really planning this stuff together, like they're probably not going to do things that are going to like step on each other's toes, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I wonder how. I mean, it's just fun to speculate. Like, what are these guys up to?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well,
Well, and at the
But
end
did
of
you
the
guys
day
see that?
too,
go.
it
That
is it's
go ahead,
go ahead.
Michael.
go ahead, tinfoil.
Oh, sorry, my Christian name is also Michael, so forgive me. No, I was saying that collaboration versus competition is more in line with a customer centric movement, which is what we have talked a lot about, that the customer delight, and that like you said, not stepping on each other's toes seems more collaborative, and that collaboration would just affect us in the best ways, being the consumer. That's all I was gonna.
Then Brian, you were going to say something?
Oh yeah, I was just asking if you guys saw Elon Musk tweet out like a baby picture of himself holding ice cream,
Oh
saying,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
"What do you caption it?
What was
Ice
that like a
cream,
couple
yum,
of
so
days ago?
good." What
Two,
was it?
two, two times.
Sorry, what was that?
There was two photos, both with ice cream.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And yeah, said ice cream, yum, so good. And then um, what was that when he was demoing the playing um, playing on X, live streaming on X. He also replied to it saying some other thing about ice cream. Ice cream so good. I think it was like very similar.
Were you talking about the TikTok trenders doing like the weird like NPC thing? Because I'm pretty sure that's
No,
what that
no.
was about, right?
Oh, was
Apparently,
that
Snoop Dogg
I
has ice
was
cream too.
talking about the reply that he made to himself streaming.
Oh, okay. I don't think I caught that.
Which is crazy. And he's got a bored ape.
Yeah. Snoop
This
and
is
Dr. Bombay.
the Snoop Dogg ice cream. So I don't know, man. It's crazy.
It's just mind blowing what's happening
Bring your
right.
mind
I was
deployable.
also wondering if this was not to go on a bunch of random ones, but the dog that Teddy is riding on. Like I was like, where is that dog even from? But I was like, could it be Underdog? Like that there's all these underdogs that are going to carry Teddy forward.
Well, I think
Yeah.
the dog and the Teddy things is based off of his actual dog that recently
Well, his
passed
actual
away.
dog's a white. No, but if you look at the book, there's the Teddy looks like his dog, but the actual dog, there's like brown dog, which is clearly
There
not the
is?
same. Yeah, it's.
I,
Yeah,
I
I guess
really
you'll
need to
find it
buy
though.
those books, man. Ugh.
Yeah.
I hate being broke.
Has
Yeah.
anybody ever heard of? Has
Put it in
anybody ever heard this?
BBBYQ. Gee.
I know, right?
This was something that's bugged me for a while in concerning the Teddy books. Growing up as a kid, I got a book. Oh, I was like 12 or something, and it was an author named. I'm pretty sure his name is Graham Base. Wonderful photographer and just an incredible illustrator, and he's written several books. The one I got as a child was called The 11th Hour, and that book, and I get goosebumps saying it. The whole book was just infused with code, and the whole premise of the book was there was an elephant, and it was his birthday, and when they went in to eat the feast with all of his animal friends, the feast had been eaten. And so you read the book and you read the story, and you come to the very end, and you realize there's this like sealed envelope with a coded message on the front, and you had to go back through the book and decode it, and then you could try and figure out if you could clue the character in the story that ate the feast. And I was always curious about it because I know that I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Ryan Cohen is around 40, like 38, 40, something like that. And he probably would know of this author, and I don't know. I always wondered about that. It's a great book. You should all check it out, and even if just for the artwork, it's fantastic. But I just
What's the name of the
there's
book
a
again?
lot of that it's called The 11th Hour, and it's I think it's GRAME BASE, Graham Base. I believe he's South African, which is also interesting in and of itself. But no, he did a lot of really good work. I think he's got 3 or 4 books out, and I'm pretty sure they all have secret things, and find the hidden image. I grew up with that old magazine Highlights as a kid. They were always in the dentist's office, and my favorite part of that was the spot there's like a list of random objects, and you got to find them. There's like just I don't know, man. We're of that type of mindset. We like to peel apart the onion. That's just part of something that we've all, I think, grown up with, especially the video game generation. I mean, a lot of that is, if you ever played a single installation of Tomb Raider, I mean, any puzzle platformer, right? And so, it just intrigues me that I'm close in age to him, that I feel like he may have seen some things that I too have kind of grew up with, and maybe he took a page out of that book. No pun intended.
So I just put this up for
Yeah.
someone in the chat wanted to see. I think someone might have decoded it. It's R41, Japan, London, 1941 UK declared war on Japan. Okay, so wait, they... Well, I'll have to think about that. But I think I'm going to start winding down the show. I got to actually hit the gym before it closes.
Of course.
You guys are all awesome. Thanks for coming on and joining me.
Of course.
I love everyone here.
Yeah, and look forward to talking with you guys next time.
Yeah. So instead of kicking off all one by one, I'll just we'll all just peace out at once. So
Peace
I'll
out
be
at one
streaming
time.
again
Let's do it.
sometime.
Later,
So,
dude.
All
all right.
right.
See you later.
Good night.
Having
Night,
space.
guys.
Teamwork makes